Hello, welcome. Meeting's being called to order at 10:15 a.m. and I'd like to announce the board met in closed session and the following action was taken. Public employee appointment employment. The board took action and unanimously approved the appointment of the following administrators: Tamala Moore, principal; Roy Herberger, elementary school; Jana Vermette, principal; Mary Tsukamoto, elementary. Congratulations. Good morning and welcome to the Elk Grove Unified School District's virtual special board meeting through the Zoom webinar platform. We thank you for joining us and ask for your patience in advance as we navigate this new platform for conducting school board meetings. Legislative bodies, including school districts, are now permitted to hold board meetings telephonically or by other electronic means because on March 17th, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order N2920, suspending certain provisions of the California Ralph M. Brown Act. In addition, consistent with the March 19th, 2020 statewide shelter-in-place order issued by the governor, Executive Order N3320, the Sacramento County Shelter-at-Home issue on March 19th, 2020 and April 7th, 2020. And the Center for Disease Control social distancing guidelines, which discourage public gatherings. This special board meeting is conducted via the Zoom webinar platform. Public comments can be submitted to the board about items on the special board meeting agenda. Because this is a special board meeting, only comments directly related to an item on the agenda will be read during the appropriate part of the meeting. Individuals with questions or comments on general school district issues may address those at regularly scheduled board meetings. All electronic public comments that were submitted to the board through the Google platform will be provided to the board in writing relative to the appropriate agenda item. Please be advised that everyone participating via Zoom webinar is muted and all member votes will be by roll call. Members of the board present today are myself, Board President Beth Albiani, Board Clerk Crystal Martinez Hilaire, Board Member Nancy Cheris Espinoza, Board Member Carmine Forcina, Board Member Chet Madison, Board Member Tony Perez, and Board Member Bobby Stingell. In addition, today's Zoom webinar meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district's YouTube channel. We always start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Cerruti has volunteered to lead us today.
Thank you, Madam President. It would be my privilege and honor. Please stand. Salute and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Cerruti. I have a short item with the board, 87, 48. We have a number of public comments for item number 4, expanded learning options for the Elk Grove Unified School District. We have a total of 145 comments, 48 being duplicates, so that leaves us with 87. I've asked them to be grouped and to allow 20 minutes per feeling. Is that okay with the board?
I'd like to change our policy that these people could actually call in and express themselves. We have the technology so they could call in and express themselves individually and give them the maximum time. The 3 minutes, is it 3 minutes?
It is 3 minutes, yes, it always has been.
I think we need to have these individuals call in and give their voice to our board. And because of the fact, it's very important at this time.
Okay, and when we have a lot, we have often restricted that time, Mr. Perez, and shortened it. So Mr. Fortino, you have a comment to make?
Yeah, I would choose to hear the comments. This is a very, very important issue.
Okay, Mr. Madison?
I will choose to group, as you had indicated. I would prefer that as a group.
Ms. Singh Allen?
I would prefer hearing the comments, but limiting it to a shorter time period, like a minute or something, so that we can hear them all, but not maybe the the full breadth of the comments. This way we get more.
Okay,
But it is your discretion. You are the president, and that is presidential.
it is a presidential decision, but I appreciate everybody's input.
Thank you.
If everyone is fine, I would go with 2 minutes and extend that from 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Does that
I
sound like?
call for a vote count, please. There
Okay.
was other members that didn't express themselves.
It is actually my choice to make, and I saw your physical head nods, yes or no, and we are going to go ahead with 2 minutes each with a 30-minute limit. Ms. Pinkerton, hopefully that is clear to you. If not, please let me know. So we will start on our discussion. Oh, no, I'm back here. We will start on opening and review of the day. Mr. Hoffman, if you would please lead us.
Thank you, Ms. President. So first of all, thank you all for being here and for the public that's joining us. I do want to make sure we're clear that this was actually a scheduled workshop meeting that we do a number of times during the year. They're outside of our regular board meetings. And it is the reason this particular meeting was scheduled during the workday, because it's really a workshop day. And we moved it up 1 week. We were really supposed to share this information with our public next Wednesday, but we wanted to get that information out to our public as soon as we could. So we moved that day, this meeting forward a week, but it is a workshop setting, a special meeting, not a regular meeting, and that's why it's being run during the day. Beyond that, I want to just say I'm very proud to be part of Elk Grove Unified. I'm proud of the collaboration and work that has happened across all of our units to this point, and we're going to go specifically with the work we've done with EGA today, and also share the concurrent model, which is a modification to the instructional model that we're presenting moving forward. I want to say out loud and clear, the concurrent model is not perfect. Our transitional model was not perfect. Our actual full back in school, when we're all that wasn't perfect either. But we are working in a pandemic, and we are trying to prioritize specific attributes within this this model. And the thing that we're prioritizing in this recommendation is the relationships between our students and our kids, keeping our students and our kids connected, the relationships that have been built to this point, and not doing a full redistribution of kids and teachers across the district. The other piece is the idea that our teachers and our kids will be in contact every single day during the week. We've visited many districts that are doing hybrid models and doing nothing. And one of the big good decisions, tough decisions, but one of the big feedback pieces from parents, from students, and from teachers is the days that they don't have contact with kids, their asynchronous days are very challenging. And so our model, not perfect, but it does maximize keeping kids and teachers together, and kids and teachers interact on a daily basis. It's going to be more challenging than what we're currently doing for our staff. We're aware of that. And we will do everything we can to support our staff in that work. But we thought distance learning was impossible, but our folks have made it possible. And many folks may think that the concurrent model is impossible, but we will support and get that done as well. So appreciate all the work that's been done today, and look forward to sharing that with the board today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little bit confused here. Now, this is a regular board meeting, correct?
No,
It is
No?
not. It's a special meeting.
no, it's a special meeting, Mr. Press. It was noticed
Well-
as a special meeting.
This is a special meeting, but yet we're going to vote on an MOU and some budget items. So I don't quite, is that within our bylaws? We have
Absolutely.
special meetings and board meetings?
Yes.
And does it distinguish when we vote on a budget item that when you vote on a budget item, that is a board meeting?
There are some very
That's
specific.
what, Karen, can you please interpret that, please? Our legal.
Superintendent Hoffman, President Albiani, would you like me to respond?
Yes, please.
The board has the ability, consistent with the Brown Act, at a special meeting to take action to approve the MOU that's before the board today.
And we could do that at a meeting versus the board meeting?
This is a special board meeting that was properly agendized by the school district.
Mhm.
And so, yes, the answer is yes.
Mr. Perez, just, I know there's times with like the LCAP and some of those other things where it actually says that has to be done at a regularly scheduled board meeting. So there are times in which you're saying is correct. But with the work that we're doing today, as long as it's fully agendized, we're okay.
Yes, I understand it's agendized, and we have a 24, what do you call it, hour, what do you call it?
Posting requirement.
Well, yeah, we have all these requirements, but yet we are doing, hold on here.
Mr. Perez?
I got an emergency meeting for my mother. Hold on here.
Okay, we wish
Hold
you
on.
the best, Mr. Perez. I hope everything is okay. Will you mute when you can? I'm sure you don't want us to know. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. I believe we have one public comment on the consent agenda, Ms. Pinkerton.
Yes. Madam Board President, there's one comment related to board agenda item number 3, which is the consent agenda. It says it's anonymous. I am writing about the $1,155,000 proposal to purchase headsets for elementary school students, secondary students, and teachers so that students can continue learning via Zoom in the classroom. I do not feel this is money well spent. This model of teaching is not much of an improvement over full distance learning. So I fear this is throwing good money after bad. Please consider and use it to purchase equipment to enable teachers to live stream their sessions to students at home while teaching in person to students in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pinkerton. I'd like to call for a motion to approve items 1 through 6 on the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved by Ms. Singh Allen, seconded by Mr. Madison.
Hold on. Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, great. Did you have we're doing consent agenda. We have a motion for items 1 through 6.
Yes, I would like to pull item 1 through 6.
Right.
Excuse me?
Yes. I like to pull item 1, all those items. The concern I'm about, the amount is there, but yet they do not state where the money is coming from. That's why my concern. I'm glad that you put the totals in there, but I do not know where the money has come from. Either it's coming from the CARES Act or the General Reserve or the regular budget. So
Mr. Press, yes, Mr. Press, I understand.
That's the concern I am.
Excuse
So
me,
if they
Mr.
can explain
Perez,
that to me.
excuse me, I'm speaking. I will get you, it's a one thing, you would like to know where the money comes from. We can have that answered for you. In the future, if you have questions, please contact the superintendent directly. Mr. Hoffman, the money for this purchases are coming from where?
This is the CARES Act is the lion's share of it. I'll make sure that Ms. Hayes confirms the exact accounts that it'll be coming from.
So yes, they are coming from the CARES Act funds, and we are specifically targeting the CRF funds that expire in December of this year. But yes, all 6 of those items will be paid for through CARES Act.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to have a roll call vote on items 1 through 6 as moved. Mr. Fortuna.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Charis Espinoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Martinez-Soler.
Aye.
Mr. Madison.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
My recommendation again, please put the pertinent information in these consent items. Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Singh Allen.
Aye.
Thank you. And an aye myself. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have discussion items. Expanding learning options for Elk Grove Unified School Districts. Ms. Pinkerton has public comment to read. And Miss Charis Espinoza has volunteered to time for us today, which is a bit of a change, but we appreciate the help. And we are going at 2 minutes. Ms. Pinkerton, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Board President. I'll start reading the comments related to discussion item number 4 on the agenda. First item is anonymous. I really believe you should wait until after the holidays. There may be an increase in cases due to people gathering with numerous family members and or traveling. It's not worth it when there would be only 1 month of school. I will not send my child back until I'm sure that everyone is following protocols and parents aren't sending their kids to school or sick kids to school. The next comment is also anonymous. So special education, is that including IEP students, and what will the times be? Will the schools be able to put siblings together so the parents aren't making 4 trips? The next question comes from Ariel Carvajal. Keeping my son on distance learning, is it possible? Not in a rush to get back to school due to no valid vaccine yet, plus winter season is around the corner. Are we putting kids at risk? The next question or the next statement is anonymous or public comment. Thank you for thinking of the safety of our students, but I do not see how teaching a computer in the classroom counts as in-person teaching. You are merely moving the location of students into the classroom. In-person teaching should allow the teacher to teach face-to-face and not to the computer. I do agree that it would be nice to keep teachers and students aligned. However, unless you are planning to have teachers teach to the computer all year long, why not change it now, or why change it now? This is a disservice to the students who can actually get high quality teaching in person now. The next public comment comes from Winnie Hung. Please continue to keep our students, staff, and faculty safe by continuing full distance learning. Elk Grove Unified School District led the nation in safeguarding our community by closing schools in March. This kept our infection rates low. Opening schools in the middle of the trimester is disruptive to students who finally got used to distance learning. Please continue with full distance learning and reevaluate hybrid model in the spring. The next comment comes from a special education teacher. Currently, I am unable to do synchronous academic teaching through distance learning for over half of my class. These same students wish to remain in distance learning. If I was to return to the classroom, I would no longer be able to provide the same amount of synchronous academic time due to the following: getting students off the buses, getting breakfast and lunch behavior monitoring and toileting, cleaning and the wheelchair accessible bathroom for an excuse, ensuring masks remain on cognitively challenged or sensory challenged students, and walking students back out to the bus. Oh, and all the COVID checks. While I hope none of my students have behaviors through any of these new procedures that lay hands on one another, student or staff member, I have now lost those synchronous academic hours for my distance learning students. Another concern is around having secondary self-contained classes return before their peers. If the self-contained classes follow the same schedule and may even participate in some general education classes, it would make more sense to have these classes remain with their peers and start back to school at the same time. My last concern is for those special education students who are over 19 years of age. We know that adults are more prone to catching COVID-19. We would be exposing these adults to higher risk of infection. Are other special needs adult programs currently functioning back in person? If not, then maybe we should look at this population in a different light, as they are now part of the adult cohort that already has a higher risk of catching COVID-19. The next comment comes from Susanna Nicholson. My kids are getting great grades until distance learning started. My 5th grader now has a 56% grade, and my 3rd grader frequently falls asleep on Zoom and needs someone standing over him when he does his work because he gets bored on iReady. They miss their friends and getting out of the house for more than just a drive to get takeout in drive-through or a walk around the block. They need recess and the classroom desk instead of their bedrooms. The next comment is anonymous. I think it would be highly negligent to forcefully reopen when there is not a vaccine or a guarantee of safety for all staff and students. Please do not submit to public pressure to reopen and hear the concerns of all teachers and parents and families. Yes, some families need schools to reopen and return to full work. Others do not want to risk the healthy safety of their children and the increased risks of family community spread. I strongly request that the board give the parents the right to request home distance learning or campus as currently designed. This has been a disruption to the learning of our children. Please let families decide on how best to ensure family needs as it relates to learning. Sincerely, a mother and aunt of children across multiple schools in the district. The next comment is also anonymous. My daughter loved school and was getting good grades before they closed the schools. Now she's failing and has behavioral issues she didn't have before. Instead of having some of her homework done by the time she got off the bus and getting the rest done by dinner, we have problems getting her to do any schoolwork. She says she's getting headaches from it. The next comment comes from Juanita Lopez. Dear trustees, please consider the option for students to continue distance learning as they are currently doing with the help of parents and their grandparents. To those students who wish to return to school as parents agree, it should be their option also. A hybrid method, the two options seem to be the fairest option available. However, should parents wish to send their students back into school, they agree to not hold the district liable for the child concerns during a pandemic. Thank you. The next comment is anonymous. Good morning, board members. I'm an elementary school teacher in the district, and I am also a parent of three elementary students. So this is the lens from which my comments come. I'm commenting on agenda item number 4. I don't envy your position tasked with making decisions that affect the lives and livelihoods of so many people. I understand that you are under pressure from some families to get kids back in school. I understand that some students are struggling and families believe that returning a person is the answer to those struggles. I am commenting to ask that you make it clear to families exactly what it is that you are proposing for their children. When parents are begging to open schools, I don't believe any of them think the concurrent proposal is what they will receive. I don't believe a distracted teacher with attention constantly split is the answer to their concerns. I had been teaching from home for 11 weeks. I thought I'd have it figured out by now. If I were more organized, I tell myself, if only I had better systems for communicating with families or for collecting work or delivering lessons. I have adjusted over and over, and it is still taking me 50 to 60 hours a week to make this model work. Every lesson must be modified for online delivery, submission, and feedback. Relying on technology and that doesn't always behave as you planned is incredibly frustrating. This is why I cannot fathom the idea of doing this current job and also adding more to my plate, as is the plan with a concurrent model. This new model asks me to do this 50 to 60 hour a week job and also supervise the in-person learning and behavior of children in my room, and also be in charge of their safety and cleaning of my room, and also be responsible for monitoring mask wearing and distance and hand washing, and also engage Zoomers and roomers on the same tasks to very different places, and also ensure Chromebooks and textbooks travel efficiently and reliably to and from home daily, and also to attend to technology glitches, monitoring Zoom waiting rooms, masks, breaks, and the emotional needs of kids who didn't sign up for any of this. The scope of my comments do not include my own personal safety.
That's time for that comment.
Okay. The next comment is anonymous. Having the younger kids return to school before the end of the year is not in the best interest of kids. They have learned their schedules, and it's expected of them to have them learn a new schedule and new rules and guidelines before the holidays, and expect them to return or to remember this is not reasonable. It took them a while to get distance learning down. It will take them a while to learn the new ins and outs of schools. Let the children finish the year strong with distance learning and start the new year being back in school, learning with the new guidelines and rules, just like the older grades are doing. The next comment comes from Nadia Lopez Perez. First, I would like to say thank you to the school board for switching gears last March and changing our community schools to full distance learning model. As difficult as it was the right call to make. It saved our community from being a high transition region to maintaining a low risk area. My husband and I are Elk Grove citizens for 30 years. We went to school here, and now both of our sons attend Harriet Eddy Middle School and Laguna Creek High School. This year, both students and staff have had to reinvent the educational wheel, while some students struggle others can excel. Please allow parents the choice of which model to follow. Health concerns are very real in some households, and reopening school is also reopening the highway of virus transmission from household to household. Allow teachers to finish the year as they started. Don't make them reinvent the wheel again. Thank you, Fermin and Nadia Perez. The next comment is anonymous. On the issue regarding school reopening, I would hate to risk anyone's health, safety, and life right before the holidays. Cold and flu season is starting in the middle of a pandemic. I have high-risk family members at home. While I may not be severely affected by COVID-19, should I catch it, my high-risk family members could be. I do not want to pass anything on to them. I do not want to spend my holidays caring for someone with the virus, or worse, spend my holidays without family members because they are in the hospital. I know we need to move forward sometime, but I'd rather wait at least until January. The next comment is anonymous. I believe that reopening schools before a vaccine is available is wrong. One, this will put teachers, paras, other staff, and students in danger. Two, it will be more disruptive to students' schedules when we most likely have to shut down again. Three, if on campus, children cannot even have recess and lunch like they are used to, this will be confusing and stressful. Younger children are not going to be able to comply with all of the safety measures. I understand that distance learning is different. However, my class has had excellent attendance so far, and with the exception of a few children who are regularly distracted, they are the same the same in person as well. They are getting 5 days a week of instruction and have gotten into a rhythm. Changing now and possibly having a change back will just be unproductive. The next comment is anonymous. Please don't make parents and students pivot again in the middle of the trimester. We just got used to distance learning and it's working. If you do move to transition model, please give parents the option to opt out and continue full distance learning to protect those of us with chronic illness. Please keep us safe. Thank you. The next comment comes from Jennifer Tam. Please don't make our students change their schedules right before the holidays. Winter is when we always get sick, and having students return to school, even hybrid models, puts us all at risk as cases surge within the US again. Please continue with full distance learning. Thank you. The next comment comes from Ignacio Moreno. I would like to thank the school board for having courage to get out in front of this pandemic and having the best interaction of children. My son, who is an 8th grader at Harriet Eddy, is flourishing with distance learning. I believe that the safety of our children should come first over the pressures of the few. The best decision would allow parents to keep their children at home on distance learning if they don't feel comfortable sending their children back to the classroom. The next comment also comes from the Moreno family. I would like to thank the school board for making the right decision and keeping our
You're muted, something.
Santi, you muted somehow?
Yeah, I didn't do that. Sorry.
Sorry.
My son's grades have severely improved due to no distractions and is able to focus on teachers' instructions and homework. My son has not been sick since distance learning started, and I believe this would change if he is forced back into the classroom. Parents should have the choice to keep their children home in the safety of their own home or allow them to go back to the classroom. The safety of our children should continue to be the priority of the school board. The next comment comes from Kay Huang. Please continue to keep us safe by letting parents choose to continue full distance learning. I have 2 kids.
Question, can you hear me?
Third.
What are you doing?
And
Excuse me, Ms. Pinkerton. Mr. Prez, what's the issue? You're on mute.
I have a bandwidth issue. My computer, I'm getting banned and the sound system is not working well.
Okay.
We'll have Mr. Mate give you a call on your phone and see if he can help you with it.
All these will also be available to you written. So, and you should, hopefully Mr. May can solve your problem and you'll be back for the presentation, and you always have the option
That's
to join
for
here as well.
presentations, and it's cutting off. There's
Mr.
a
Mute.
bandwidth. I'm getting a bandwidth message problem.
Okay, we're gonna have Mr. Mate call you on your phone. If you could mute your mic and answer the phone and work with Mr. Mate.
Well, Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pinkerton.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you. It's impossible to have one go to school while the other stay home until December. This is a real hardship for parents. Please continue full
Well-
distance learning and plan for possible hybrid model in the spring. We just got used to distance learning. It's a challenge to make us switch again so close to the end of the trimester. The next comment is anonymous. I am a new teacher with the district and am extremely disappointed and frustrated with the way this pandemic is being handled at the district level. I do not feel that it is fair as a healthy adult that my personal health and well-being, as well as my family, should be put at risk in order to instruct students in the same way that we are already doing so. This model is nothing more than a glorified babysitting, and it is a clear response to what parents need. There is clearly more regard for parent-student concerns than there is for teacher and staff concerns. We are on the downward trend because people are staying home. This will completely disrupt that trend. The virus has not gone away. It is still potentially deadly to those who contract it. No one is safe from risk or exposure until there's a vaccine. I feel like I am being treated like a disposable human being and do not feel valued as an employee. The next comment is anonymous. Hello, and thank you for helping us all adjust to this new learning. It has been a challenging at times. I have a middle school and a high school child, and both are excelling in the distance learning we have been doing. My youngest was getting C and D grades and not really focusing, but now with distance learning is getting A and B grades and enjoying learning. My oldest likes either one and excels in either situation. I think the parents should have a say on if they want their child to go back or not. As far as going back, I think it is too soon. If health is the primary concern in the world right now, opening up schools, especially in the cold and flu season, will just open up a highway for germs, cold, flu, or COVID, and endangers the students and teachers. I think this year should end with distance learning like it started, and maybe rethink physical learning next year as an option. We, as a country and world, need to protect everyone from the virus, and opening schools right now is opening up more chances to get sick. We don't need to rush, but to do it right and with less sicknesses, however it needs to be done. Thank you for your time. The next comment is anonymous. Opening schools back up would be a huge mistake. We keep seeing on the news how schools have good intentions but end up closing down. My family has been doing our part since March, and besides the grocery store and occasional drive-through, we stay at home. We are not about to suddenly start being around other people and being in their bubble. It is impossible to know who has and hasn't been taking this pandemic seriously. Also, there is absolutely no way that primary age children are going to be able to mask on or any of the other safety precautions the district talks about. Children are the biggest germ spreaders and will continue to be because they are kids and flu season is here. The timing of reopening is all wrong. Please stick with distance learning until we are all vaccinated. We have consistency and daily routine that works. Also, I think it is ridiculous to overload our teachers and paras with the stress of having to decide to stay safe or keep their jobs. They cannot do both during a pandemic. The next comment is anonymous. Good morning, Superintendent Hoffman and board members. I'm an elementary school teacher in the district, as well as the wife of an EGUSD high school teacher and a mom of 2 children in EGUSD. Your jobs right now are impossible. No matter what decision you make, there will be critics. Due to the circumstances beyond your control, there are really no winners. But I am at a loss and feel suckered punched at the news of the concurrent model. It's all the risk and no reward. I ask that the district be very clear with families of what this model means before many families start the difficult task of finding ways to get their children to school for 8 hours a week. And those 8 hours in the week, they'll be sitting 6 feet apart with a mask on, watching me through a computer screen through Zoom. It will not be the classroom they are used to. It will be a fluffy white. It will not be a fluffy winter penguin crafts, gingerbread houses, collaborative games, partner talk, or math tubs. It will be distance learning like what we've been doing, but in classrooms instead of at home. It's taken me 9 weeks, in addition to the 30 to 40 hours of professional development I signed up for during my unpaid summer, to get a manageable workload. The manageable workload looks like 50 hours a week. The first month of school had me in tears daily. I love my job and feel so committed to educating children, but this about broke me. Your ask right now is for for me to do the jobs of 4 people: a classroom teacher from afar, a distance learning teacher, a technology specialist, and a teacher that provides meaningful asynchronous instruction and activities. Every communication says to take care of ourselves, find ways to take care of our mental health, care of our families. But how? When you say we're all together in this, but are, because I feel alone, overworked, and overstressed. The next comment comes from Michelle F. Our children's health and safety are our #1 priority. We feel that it is premature to send kids back to school during flu season, November, December. We would like to point out that our kids have been sick, ill since school closed down, or haven't been sick or ill since closed down. We understand there will be protocols in place, but we believe enforcing those to children will be very difficult and challenging. You hear and see adults using masks incorrectly, not being able to keep them on for a long period of time, and breaking social distancing themselves. We fear that those expectations will not be met by children as well. They will be breaking social distancing, removing their masks, and touching everything without even being aware of it. With that being said, we believe children should remain in distance learning at least for the remainder of this year as a precautionary measure and possibly prevent a potential outbreak. The next comment comes from Amelina de Souza. As we are aware now that the death rate of COVID-19 are quite low, and most of the death occurred in patients with compromised health conditions, I, as a parent of 2 high school students, strongly believe it is time for schools to open. We are not in a state of emergency, and this lockdown is unlawful. Living in fear is no way of living. If this continues, the mental and emotional damages that our children and families in general will suffer will be irreversible, let alone the academic setbacks. The EGUSD are going to have some responsibilities for these damages. Our children are not getting a fraction of the learning that they need and have the right to. This platform of distance learning are not what our tax money are supposed to be paying for. If it can go on like this, it can't go on like this any longer. Someone in the board must speak up and get our children back in school as soon as possible. The next comment is anonymous. You've said that students and staff will be required to wear masks and social distance at 6 feet, but how does that work for our special needs classes, like in the PALS program? Those students would be exempt from wearing masks and do not understand social distancing. As a paraeducator with the PALS program, I can't tell you how often we get sneezed on, spit on, and bitten. In some classes, this is a daily occurrence. How do you expect to keep the staff safe when our students can't even follow basic safety protocols? The next comment comes from D. Williams. As a parent and a kindergarten teacher in the district, I am strongly against the proposed schedules for the concurrent model. The biggest 2 reasons are time and mental health. Currently, my kindergartners are with me whole class for 3 hours a day, and they each get an additional hour a week in small groups where they have time to socialize, share, and play games. Under the proposed schedule, they will only see me 2 hours a day. That is not enough time. That is enough time. I see coming back to school will do more harm mentally for students. Right now, they are safe at home and can socialize during small groups. If we bring them back, they cannot talk to their peers unless they can yell and be heard without masks on, cannot play with toys, cannot go to recess, and they will be surrounded by adults who are under a lot of stress to keep them safe and stress to teach them to read, have number sense, and be good citizens, and all the other important standards taught in only 2 hours a day. Parents should not have to, nor are they qualified, nor are most qualified to teach their children what teachers will not have time for with this new schedule. As much as I do not enjoy distance learning, I know my students are safe, happy, and are learning every day. We have in-person programs at school for those students who are struggling with learning from home. I ask the board to please consider pushing back the elementary start date to January or adding more time for synchronous learning to the schedule. I know this is not an easy decision, and I thank you for your time and consideration. The next comment comes from Kishwan Thorntona. I am concerned about sending my 6th grade student back into the classroom. There are no vaccinations available, and although our county tier is lowering, the winter will bring about something we are not ready for. We see districts throughout California struggling to make a quick move to get students back, but it's too quick. We don't know enough to properly send students back. Hybrid also poses additional issues on students, families, teachers, and school sites. The next comment comes from Gwen Young. Dear board, thank you for continuing to serve our diverse population and its expansive needs. I am a parent of 2 elementary school students. I understand the challenges of full distance learning for parents as well as teachers. I do not think the new model proposed will be much improvement for our parents other than providing supervision for their learners for 8 hours a week. But I do see it as much a greater burden for our teachers to bear. I cannot fathom how you can ask them, on top of all they have accomplished with devising a brand new curriculum with brand new delivery method, to now add on top of that simultaneously supervising 12 children in the same room. This will break them and you will have a far bigger problem than you have now. Please reconsider. Thank you. The next comment is anonymous. I'm an elementary teacher in the district who is teaching from school during distance learning. At my school, we already have 20 students on campus as part of the ACES program. There is already a noticeable change in the internet capability and my computer has become slower and slower. I'm wondering what will happen when we have students on campus, all using the internet at the same time. Is there a plan in place to upgrade the internet bandwidth at our schools? The next comment is anonymous. According to the district's guidance on using Tersano stabilized aqueous ozone is an all-in-one solution approved for sanitizing up to 24 hours. However, according to the Tersano.com SAO, is used in conjunction with your current disinfectant to clean, sanitize, and deodorize. No rinsing required. SAO is an antimicrobial, not an antibacterial or antiviral cleaner. According to Tersano.com, SAO is not a disinfectant and it does not replace your current hospital-grade disinfectant. Additionally, as of August 18, 2020, Tersano states, for our next stage of testing, we have been informed by various labs that will soon begin offering efficacy testing against SARS-CoV-2, the causative agent of COVID-19. They are in the process of preparing virus stock, performing feasibility, and developing test protocols that are aligned with the requirements of the regulatory bodies. Tersano explains that there is no current research that SAO eliminates the enveloped virus that the causative agent of COVID-19. SAO is also not approved by the CDC as a disinfectant used to fight COVID-19. Yet the district claims SAO is used for disinfection when the Tersano company clearly states that it is not. The district's guidance on using Tersano, all classroom workspaces will have fresh bottles of Tersano SAO solution delivered daily. However, according to Tersano.com, the cartridge is absolutely necessary because the cartridge filters out the minerals in your tap water. So SAO cannot be sprayed from the dispenser into a spray bottle for use. It must be sprayed from the dispenser with the cartridge. I am sure the district researched Tersano and the efficacy of SAO, but does the district really expect staff and students to use SAO as the only cleaner to eliminate COVID-19? The next comment is anonymous. Specifically, distance learning from home. I am a teacher in the district and I think that it is very important that you describe to the parents and students exactly how this will look for in-class time. I don't think most families understand that their children will essentially be completing distance learning in class for 2 days a week. Teachers will have Zoom with a mask on. Students will get to socially interact at school and won't have the freedom they have at home. Please be 100% transparent about this. The next comment is also anonymous. I've heard that whether kids are at home or at the school, they will be on Zoom or Google Meet. I do not believe this has been adequately explained to families. Parents need an in-depth explanation of what their children will experience with going back in person. It will be vastly different than what it was before. They deserve to have all the information as to make an informed choice. The next comment comes from Ying Lu. I would like my kids to go back to school in late spring 2021, after flu season and after all the kids are vaccinated for COVID-19. It will not be safe for both school workers and students, as well as for family members. Kids do not know how to properly protect themselves. I'm very concerned about the safety of the children and the safety protocol in place at school. That's why I want distance learning after the flu season. I do not want children to take unnecessary risk. The next comment comes from Jessica Stusakavaj. I am a mother and a teacher. I have been struggling since the pandemic began. Like so many of my friends and colleagues, my 74-year-old mother is my childcare provider. I am so blessed to have her care. But with this new plan, we are putting her and all others at risk for no good reason. I understand we are all struggling, but we cannot ignore the overwhelming need for assurance for everybody's health and well-being. Teachers, administrators, mothers, fathers, friends have adapted to this distance learning model, and now we are turning the tables for a plan that doesn't support any population as a whole. It is a mistake to make such a drastic decision during a continuing uncertain time. Please slow down and consider the community as a whole and the need for a complete, thorough, thought out plan moving forward. Families, especially those in my community, do not grasp the actuality of what this new model presents. You are presenting an in-person model to anxious families, while the reality is a discombobulated, ill-advised, unprepared, and unsafe false reality. Please slow down and think about the repercussions of your decision. Thank you. The next comment comes from Ping. Please continue to keep our students, staff safe. By continuing distance learning, EGUSD led the nation in safeguarding community by closing schools in March. This kept our infection rates low. Opening schools in the middle of the trimester is disruptive to students who are finally got used to distance learning. I appreciate that the district continue with full distance learning the rest of the semester and reevaluate it in the spring. This comment is echoed by approximately 42 people. And those of those who are named in that, they are Family Moreno, Pauline Huang, Angela Kwong, Yu Huang, Shang Yan, one anonymous, Jing Lin, Michelle Zhang, Shang Wen Yu, one anonymous, Lixin Yu, Leila Chen again, one anonymous, Julie Yan, one anonymous, Yan Lin, Li Tao Yin, Hong Li Qi, Mr. Huang or Mrs. Huang, Li Huang Zhang, one anonymous, Jie Han, Xin Li, Noyu Li, Ma Xingling, Ping, Hongling Qian, anonymous, Nicole Huang, Michelle, Dan Lin, anonymous, Jufan Qin, anonymous, Zi Yunye, anonymous, Olivia Ding, Grace Jiang, Jian Mei Mai, Pai Chak Lai, and 3 more anonymous. The following other comment is anonymous. I am a teacher and a parent in the school district. I think the proposed current teaching model is horrendous. For teachers, it takes the already difficult to manage situation of the distance learning and complicates it exponentially. Having to manage students who are remote at the same time that you are having to manage students who are in person, all the while dealing with technology problems for everyone and actually teaching place is an undue burden and stress upon educators. For students who choose to be remote, they will now be staring at a screen watching a teacher who has a mask on, who will need to address the needs of their students who are in person and will therefore be pulled away from the Zoom meeting to deal with the issues that are happening in person. For the students who are in person, this will be no different than being at home on distance learning, except now they are all stuck at a desk all day long. The concurrent model serves the best interests of none of the stakeholders except the school district that doesn't want to either reallocate staff to allow for a true hybrid model and or save money and or is caving into parent and public pressure. Again, this model is horrendous for students and educators. The next comment is from Anonymous. Thank you for all that you do to ensure the safety and well-being of our students. With so much uncertainty, it is best to keep students safe at home. In staying at home, there is less disruption to distance learning routine that has already been established. Although it was sad our students cannot see each other in person at this time, most are still able to form connections with their other students with the distance learning environment. While distance learning is not an ideal environment for children to flourish in, until our children are allowed to play together with shared toys and equipment, there isn't really a benefit for the majority of students to return to an in-person learning. It would be absolute torture for my child to return to a classroom void of all the things that make learning fun, building blocks and singing and playing with resources together. Not to mention they would still be on the computer. Although a plan does need to be in place once our students return to in-person instruction, it seems like a waste of district time and resources to get those rooms ready just for children to come for only 4 hours a week or 8 hours for second to sixth graders. Again, I encourage you to keep our children at home until these restrictions are lifted and our children can return to classrooms where true collaborative learning can take place. The next comment comes from Shane Conger.
Pinkerton,
Yes,
how many
ma'am.
more do you believe you have? We're about 35 minutes now.
I'm at approximately 43. So there are approximately 40 more.
Okay. Would you, I'd like to move on to our item, and then if you would do us the favor of giving us a pro-con number, and if there is any other random, not random, any other comment that does not fit into those two categories, we could read it after the presentation, please.
So to be clear, you would like to know anybody who would be interested in staying with distance learning versus
Anybody who'd be interested in staying with distance learning, anybody who believes we should stay, return in person, I believe are our two things we're hearing. And then if there was a different comment, like another comment that would not fall under one of those. And of course, everyone will get a copy of those and we will have an idea of how many we were not able to see.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Mr. Cerruti to have our expanding learning options for EGUSD students.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman and Ms. Avalos. And if you bear with me for 1 second, let me pull the document up on the screen. Hopefully folks are able to see that. Excellent. I do greatly appreciate, and it's really not an I, it's a we appreciate the opportunity to provide the board and our staff and our community updated information on our approach to expanding learning options for our kids. And since March of last year, the core of our work has been on finding that optimal balance between educational service, the provision of high quality educational service, while ensuring the health and safety of our students, families, and staff. And you'll see this evidence throughout the presentation that we've continued to have that as our primary areas of focus. And it's been balancing this along with the adherence to 3 guiding principles that have shaped our efforts. Those being ensuring that we're safe, equitable, and responsive. In terms of safety, the work that we've been doing is continuing to work directly with our County Department of Public Health and utilizing their guidance, that information. Our district's health coordinator, Superintendent Hoffman, and a number of staff have ongoing and continued direct contact with the medical professionals, the County Department of Public Health. The equitable approach that we've taken as we begin to be able to transition students back, we are looking at phasing in students, and the youngest of our students, our pre-K 3 students who developmentally may be the most challenged in terms of long-term distance learning, would be the first that we would be looking at bringing back, as well as our students at Jesse Baker that range in age from 5 up to 22. And then we'd be transitioning our 4th through 6th graders and then our secondary students through that as we look at things through the lens of equity and providing our neediest of students the services they need. And then the responsiveness is continuing to use the feedback from our parents, our students, and our staff in guiding the design of our concurrent transitional model. So we continue to balance safety and educational services through these lenses of safety, being equitable and responsive. This is the format of the presentation that I'll be walking folks through. We typically do a why, how, and what, but when is crucial, the timing of the transition. And so this is the format that we'll be using in moving forward for the remainder of the presentation. Why we're able to make the transition at this time is we can ensure adherence to the appropriate health and safety guidelines. We can ensure high quality instruction. We can ensure the appropriate PPE is available. We can ensure comprehensive cleaning and sanitizing protocols are in place and maintained. And we can ensure that we have the applicable technology so that our folks can access what they need, use the learning tools that they need, and ensure that they have access. And this reflects what I mentioned at the outset, which is this balance of health and safety. The tremendous efforts being made every day by our 3,300 plus teachers, our principals, vice principals, support staff. They're being ardently supported through our ongoing training efforts throughout this process. Our district's health office and health coordinator, Ms. Almatari, in collaboration with Mr. Pierce and his staff, have ensured that the personal protective equipment needs will be met and sanitizing and cleaning protocols. Mr. Mate and his team continue to take the steps necessary to ensure the technology needs are met for our students, staff, and families. So this is extremely important because this is the criteria that we're using to determine when students can begin to come back into school. We didn't want to set arbitrary dates. What we wanted to use was science and the health criteria. And so once Sacramento County qualifies as orange, the district will begin classes 2 weeks later in phases that I just previously mentioned, and they're noted below. And what's important is that the dates changed as recently as yesterday. So if anyone had looked at this document that was posted a bit earlier than yesterday afternoon, if you have a copy of that version, the dates were different. The dates were a week earlier. And so the first possible date for Sacramento County to be orange is November 10th. And then thus we would begin, as it notes below, we would begin to transition our students in. So our pre-K students in Jesse Baker would be December 1st. That is a time when our 8-track year-round elementary schools, there's a slight adjustment for those schools, which would be December 3rd. Our 4th and 6th would begin transitioning in on December 15th. And then grades 7 and 9 would have an orientation after the winter break on January 6th. And then our 7th through 12th grade in full would be on January 7th. So that's the criteria is once the county turns orange, that's the criteria that we are using. And from then we would begin transitioning based on this calendar as it's noted, and it should be noted that it's variable. Things certainly could change. And so in terms of how the model was developed, collaboration is a vitally important tool, a lot of collaboration and cooperation. So certainly we've been taking the direct guidance and direction from our Board of Education. Our partnership and collaboration with our bargaining units has been and remains extremely strong through this process. And we cannot do it without the full involvement of our staff and our bargaining unit leadership. The partnership and collaboration that we have with both the County Department of Public Health that I mentioned previously, but also our County Office of Education. In particular, Superintendent Hoffman works with the County Superintendent and his fellow superintendents across the entire region as they're collectively analyzing best practices and then using the feedback from our students, parents, and staff. This has been vitally important going all the way back to March when we began doing this work in our planning.
Excuse me, when can we ask questions, now or after?
I would defer to Madam President.
I will call on you individually, Mr. Press, so everybody will have a time to speak to the presentation.
Well, I'd like to ask a question regarding some of the past.
Okay, well, I will call on you and you will have your own time.
All right.
Thank you, Madam President.
Please mute, sir. Please mute, Mr. Press.
Thank you, Madam President. The concurrent transitional model, this is going to begin the explanation of what that is. The concurrent transitional model, there's two options within the model. Families, parents, and guardians will have the option to select for their individual children whether they want to remain in distance learning 5 days a week. If they would like, the program that they currently have can remain in place. They don't have to change. The other option is a combination of in-person, meaning coming to school in classrooms, and distance learning from home. And so they would be coming 2 days a week, either Tuesday or Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday, and the remaining 3 days are distance learning. It's important because that word concurrent, which means occurring at the same time, applies because students at home and students in school would be learning together. And so the current cohort, for example, if I'm a third grade teacher and I have half of my class that has decided to stay home, and I have half of my class that the parents and guardians opted to have their children come to school, I will have students in my classroom and I will have students at home. And those students in the classroom will have their Chromebooks up and ready, and instruction will be provided to both groups simultaneously. So that's the way in general that this model, which actually includes two options, is designed. So key features of the concurrent transitional model include, as I mentioned, parents have the option. And at the end of the presentation, I'll preview it now. I'll provide further information about what parents can do and when they'll do it to make that selection through Parent View. And I just want to, I think it's an appropriate time to also reiterate what Superintendent Hoffman mentioned, which is we fully recognize there is no perfect solution. And I support what he said, which is prior to COVID, when we had our schools as they typically function, we certainly didn't view that it was perfect because there is no perfect solution and one size fits all for every student. And this certainly applies under these COVID conditions. But that said, we do feel that this current model offers these key features. The other piece is that parent decisions aren't permanent. So there will be options for parents to change their selection. And again, because the continuity of the classroom is such that a student, if a parent initially wanted their child continuing to be home, but later on they feel that conditions are such that they would like their child to experience the in-classroom option, they certainly will have the option to do that. And we will be providing parents information about when and how they can go about making those changes. And then this notes what I previously mentioned, which is our students at home and in the classroom will be logged into their Zoom and Google sessions. So this shouldn't dramatically disrupt what it is for our students. And it's noted that grades 2 through 12 retain the current teachers and schedule. Our pre-K 1, and you'll see the schedules in a little bit, teachers are the same. Our kids won't experience changing of teachers, but there is a slight modification to the schedule, and I'll go over those in a moment. And again, it maintains the teacher schedule continuity during the changing health conditions. We're not ignoring the fact that this will be another shift, and it will be a significant shift for our teachers to be teaching children in two different, and I'm saying locations because that isn't the best descriptor for it, but they'll be teaching kids that having students in their classroom as well as teaching students from their computer at home. And we're not at all underestimating the significance of those changes, but just as we have done with distance learning, there will be ongoing and ample training and support that will be provided. And we will ensure that our teachers are getting supported to the greatest extent possible, as well as classified staff who will be supporting some of our teachers within the classroom also. And now I'm going to walk through some of the schedules, and I want to also share that, and you'll see there's a slide at the conclusion where we will be providing parents more detailed information. More detailed examples of the schedules. It can get down to the actual hours and time for given class periods. But this gives a fairly good example of what the elementary schedule will look like. So first of all, again, the options could be distance learning 5 days a week. That can be maintained, and I want to continue to emphasize that. For our transitional kindergarten and kindergarten classes, you'll see that Monday is distance learning. And then there's the Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday cohorts. That is the combination of in-person in class with teachers. And then it's also the distance learning in those off days. And it is either an 8 to 10 or a 12:30 to 2:30 session. The first grade, again, Monday is distance learning, and you'll see that across the entire district, across all grade levels. There's the Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday cohorts, and you can see that it's in-person. The in-person or distance learning is 8 to 10 or 10:30 to 12:30. And then you can see our grades 2 through 6, which is distance learning 8 to 11 on Monday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday cohorts, and that is from 8 to 12. So that's the elementary schedule. The secondary schedule, again, there is distance learning 5 days a week, no change for those families that want to remain the same. Then there is the Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday cohorts. And again, for the in-person, for those cohorts, Monday is a distance learning day for all. And then there's the 4x4 and the 3x4. So you can see there are 4 70-minute class periods in the 4x4 schedules for those 4x4 schools. And what's important there is that extended class time. What's also built into that, we've been analyzing closely the time that's being used by our families and by our kids to access teachers after the class period in the afternoons, for example. And by extending these class periods, what we're seeing is that it's the best time for our teachers after the the direct instructional time to answer some of those questions and address the immediate needs of kids is built into that class period. It could also be done in that 55-minute period, but that is that's emailing, communicating with families, and doing other managerial work that our teachers are doing, connecting with our families and getting set. And the same then you can see for our 3x4 block option. So that's the secondary concurrent transitional model schedule. And then we wanted to provide some special education information. So again, all of our special education families and our kids, they can remain just as is. If they prefer to remain home, they can do so. If they would like to come to school, the special education are pre-K programs. There's no preschool on Mondays, which is consistent with past practice. And then there is the Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday option to attend in person. And instructional minutes will vary based on the program. It's the specificity and the unique nature of these programs. Our program specialists and our teachers are working currently at analyzing the specific time of these programs. The number of students attending in person will have a significant influencing factor on the schedule. And I do want to note that the start times, there will be some variation on the start and end times based upon transportation schedules. And I will touch bases on those transportation schedules. Is all of this figured out currently? No, it's not. And I'll touch on it at the end, because what is needed that will help guide our planning is for our parents to make that selection of whether or not they will be remaining in full distance learning at home, or they will be opting to come to school, the combination of coming to school and home distance learning. knowing that will enable us to begin to develop the actual schedules for our pre-K programs. Elementary self-contained class schedules, you can see distance learning on Monday from 8 to 11. And then there's the Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday. And again, instructional minutes are aligned to their general ed schedule. So they will be very similar in nature to our general ed schedules. And secondary, distance learning on Mondays from 8 to 11. And then you can see the 4x4 and the 4x3. So you can see the varying block schedules, very similar, and it's aligned to the general ed program. And then we noted Jesse Baker, which is Monday distance learning from 9 to 11, I'm sorry, 9 to 12. And then in-person Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, the combination of in-person and for those and distance learning is also 9 to 12. And those specific start and end times, again, are subject to a bit of adjustment based upon transportation. So in terms of health and safety, we're noting face coverings being worn, all classrooms being designed for students so that our 6 feet of distance can be maintained. The increased frequency of hand washing and the increased frequency of cleaning and disinfecting, passive screening for all of our students, the training for staff on illness prevention and recognizing COVID symptoms. The clear communication to staff and families will be maintained, and I'll touch bases a little more toward the end on our ongoing communication efforts. And staff will have access to the supplies to maintain a healthy and safe environment. Just a note about face coverings. We are still working on the exemption process. There will be a formalized exemption process for parents to enact should they feel that there is a need to exempt their child from wearing a face covering. There will be certain special education populations when it may be challenging for students not to touch their face, or they could have challenges expressing breathing difficulties. There may be students or staff who have certain respiratory health conditions that may necessitate it. We also have students that are hearing impaired, or there may be communications needed with a hearing impaired adult where the ability to see the mouth is essential. And what we're looking at are the potentiality of face shields with the drape or clear face coverings that we may be looking at, but we will be working through those cases on an individual basis. And the other piece of this is that we do see the cleaning and disinfecting as a collaborative effort. Certainly our custodial staff has been and will continue to do a fantastic job of deep cleaning our classrooms, but also it's a collaborative effort between custodial services, all staff, and kids, with clear guidance and directions. Students at the upper elementary grades and secondary, they'll be given the opportunity and means to clean their own work areas with technology that's safe for all kids. Again, there will be detailed information that we will be making available very soon. And by very soon, I mean in the next few days to our families and to all staff. There'll be easy access to very detailed documents that provide substantial information about all of these elements. But at this time, I would like to ask our health coordinator, Ms. Almatari, or our deputy superintendent, Mr. Pierce, who've been heavily involved with this, if they would have anything that they would like to add at this time on this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Sturdy. Yes, for the health and safety piece, you pretty much covered it all. One additional topic to address is the communication piece on our procedures on when we do have a positive COVID-19 case on campus, or even a close contact case. We work directly with Sacramento County Public Health in those instances, especially with the positive cases, to determine, what the appropriate actions would be. With all close contact and positive cases that would occur in a cohort or in a classroom, all those families, all the families in the cohort and the staff would be notified with a close contact or a positive case in their cohorts. And then again, we work very closely with Sac County to determine next steps, and if and when specific cohorts may need to transition back to full distance learning at home, whether they have to quarantine or not. We do follow guidance from Sac County Public Health on those cases for each individual one of those. So we do have a process and procedure for that. And again, we will communicate with the families that would be affected to any close contact or positive case on campus.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yeah, nothing more from me, Mr. Cerruti. I think the next couple slides you'll cover, and I'll add in as needed as you cover the next two slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And following the next couple of slides that we'll go into regarding the school and classroom environments, we'll then touch on food and nutritional services and transportation. And Mr. Pierce may also have some, he directly oversees those essential departments, and he may have information to add on those as well. So I appreciate his and Ms. Almatari's support. School and classroom environments. As it's noted, all of our campuses have extensive signage, including social distancing reminders, symptom checks, indicators, proper hand washing at all sinks, proper mask wearing instructions, social distancing, floor and carpet decals, lots of signage and lots of direction for our kids and staff. We'll have indicators placed in hallways and for both ingress and egress as our kids are coming onto campus as well as exiting campus. We'll have every classroom equipped with multiple hand sanitizer dispensers, equipped with safe and effective sanitizing supplies. And Mr. Pierce will touch on the cabinets that we have set up and established in each of our classrooms. And Mr. Pierce will also touch on the increase, our ventilation system and the upgrade to hospital grade, the MERV 13 air filters that filter bacteria and viruses. And Rob, if you'd be so kind, you can add far more detail than I just did. That would be great.
Yeah, so just a couple of things I want to share with the board, the community, and folks that are listening today. I really need to thank Bobby Hugh, who's our Director of Purchasing, Warehouse, and the print shop. Those first two bullets were all an in-house effort. So thanks to the great work of our folks in the print shop, we are able to distribute and fabricate multiple signs, both permanent metal signs that are at the front of all campuses, large A-frame signs, the typical yard signs we've all become accustomed to seeing that'll be spread throughout the campuses. This signage ranges from laminated 8.5 by 11, proper hand washing techniques at all sink locations throughout every campus, but also the important floor decals, reminding people of social distancing, posters throughout the campus, and then also the indicators that'll be along all walkways and hallways to guide students how to properly ingress and egress off of campus. The hand sanitizers, if the board's interested, I can share numbers, but we have a huge inventory of hand sanitizers, both disposable and cloth face masks, face shields as well. And then in terms of the sanitizing supplies, I know there was a public comment that was pretty astutely stated. So I'd like to talk about that. Maybe we can, if the board has any questions, we can get into that a little bit. And then the ventilation systems have to thank our M&O crews and our HVAC technicians. They've been very, very busy doing this work, and also ensuring the fresh air recycling rate of all of our spaces, not just classrooms, but our workspaces as well, and getting all of those high demand, back ordered filtration systems in place at all of our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. A bit more information regarding our school and classroom environments. We have new technologies in place to effectively and efficiently sanitize our campuses. All necessary PPE is in place, and we have inventory in the district's warehouse, including adult and children's size masks, face shields, gloves, and gowns. So we're well equipped. Isolation rooms we have isolation rooms identified on each of our campuses, and those isolation rooms are different than the health office. This is where if students students or staff for that matter are exhibiting symptoms, this is where they would go. And to move into the following bullet, we have used our CARES funds to provide supplemental health and nursing support at each and every one of our schools to support our staff and our kids under those conditions. And all classrooms will be set up to ensure the bottom line is that each and every one of these classrooms are a safe learning environment. Mr. Pierce, anything you'd like to add there, sir?
The only thing I'll add, just because it's another bullet here on this slide, and I think it's really important to talk about the Tersano product that we're using. There was some confusion with some of the public comment with regard to the Tersano. It was referencing the cartridges and the need for the cartridges in the dispenser locations. That's actually a home product. It's a really small device. It's about $200. The only way that it's effective is if that cartridge is installed in every single dispenser. We have professional units that have been installed at every single district location, not just school sites, but all district administrative facilities. It's a very high-end product to serve a large scale. It is 100% effective at eliminating COVID virus. We have the pathology studies. They were updated as recently as August. And so they have done extensive testing on the surrogate virus to COVID-19, and it's been proven effective. We really are passionate about this. The Tersano product is what's allowing us to have our teachers, well, frankly, anybody on our campuses, including students, to use it safely. It falls within the Healthy Schools Act. So the Healthy Schools Act is very prescriptive in who can use what type of sanitizing or disinfecting or even cleaning product. The Tersano product allows anyone on our campuses to use it safely and effectively. It does no harm to the environment. It does no harm to the user. It's something that we've always wanted to do. Thanks to the CARES dollars, we've been able to put this in place. So it's a lot of work to make it work, because the product is only effective as a sanitizer because of the cartridges that dispense it every 24 hours. So every single day we have committed, and it's in our cleaning protocols that the board might see later. Our cleaning protocols require our custodial staff to collect and gather every single one of these dispensers every day, and then restock them every night or morning, and then redistributed to every location. And that keeps the 24 hours of the sanitizer effective. It does act as a cleaning agent, an effective cleaning agent, for up to 6 days. But again, we only have a short 24-hour window. We're happy to do the extra work because we know anybody can use it, and we know that it will be safe.
Thank you, Rob. Moving to food nutritional services, I'll just summarize it by saying that Ms. Drake, Mr. Pierce, and the entire food nutritional services team, which has done a phenomenal job from the minute that we had to shift our and close schools for a period of time while we were planning distance learning last spring. They were some of the first to get right back to work and ensure that our families and our kids were getting the food nutritional services that they deserved and that were needed, and that will continue. And so you can see that meal options will be provided to address the needs of students attending school in person and distance learning. It will make sure that in both situations, in either selection, that meals will be provided. Meal distribution, it may vary from school and or grade levels. That's always the case. So each school, the grade levels, Ms. Drake, working with the sites, does a great job of customizing the service delivery strategies to ensure that all kids are getting the meals that they need in the most efficient way possible, and ensuring that social distancing and PPE is maintained so that all safety standards and safety guidelines are met. It's noted that meals will be free for all participating students, and will maintain the integrity of the child nutritional programs through the appropriate methods of meal accounting and claiming. So we'll make sure that we continue to operate as we should. And then we'll continue to provide quality, nutritious meals. There may be a bit of change of the actual selection early on as we're transitioning students back, because that's as we'll be analyzing how many of our students will be coming back, but it doesn't mean that the overall quality will be diminished in any way. And really what we're looking at is predominantly for our families that are in full distance learning, we're looking at a type of drive-through distribution methodology. And then for the students that are in school, it's really a grab and go. We aren't looking at feeding students on campus. They'll be taking the meals with them, and we'll be very attentive. So for example, if it's a Tuesday, Thursday student, what they'll be doing is we'll be making sure that they have food for the day, they'll have food for Friday, and they'll have food for Monday. So we are working on ensuring that our kids have the food that they need for those 5 days a week. And again, Mr. Pierce, if you have anything you'd like to add, sir.
You nailed it. I appreciate it, Mark. Good job.
Thank you, Rob. Moving to transportation. A lot of work has been done in terms of ensuring that once our buses are up and running, that we're ready to do it in a safe and efficient manner. So bus cleaning and sanitation will be conducted after each route, and in some cases during routes as needed, ensuring that we have clean and frequent touch point cleaning. All the buses will be sanitized at the end of each day. We'll have social distancing and PPE will be used by staff and students. Hand sanitizing will be provided and utilized on each of our buses. Masks will be provided by the bus drivers to students as needed. This is a really important piece. They're all important, but this one is important to note because there are social distancing requirements on our buses. And those social distancing requirements will reduce the capacity by 85%. So as a result, we will not be able to transport all of the students that we used to transport. So transportation will be provided for our students with disabilities, our homeless and foster youth students. If we find that we have available buses, available personnel beyond this, again, because this is dependent upon the number of students and number of families that opt to have their children attend school on either the Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday rotation. If we do have additional services available, we would then begin to expand those beyond. But at this point in time, we are looking at our services being provided for our students with disabilities, our students experiencing homelessness, and our foster youth kids. Rob?
No, I think you covered it all. I'll just highlight again, once after today, and we will start polling, obviously, as Mr. Cerruti said, the number of parents who are actually going to want to send their students to some in-person instruction. The second question to that will be for our mandated services in terms of transportation. How many of those parents will want to also utilize transportation versus provide it themselves? Once we have a feel for that number, based on our capacity of social distancing requirements, drivers and buses, there could be the possibility for some limited capacity of general ed transportation services, but we will have to assess that as we build our mandated transportation model first. So we're hopeful, but until we run the numbers and do the surveying, we won't know exactly.
Thanks, Mr. Pierce. And then that leads to the second to last slide, and that is, this is the actual process to make the selection. And it's vitally important. And so just a few comments about it. We're using Parent View, will be the system to get information. And there are two choices. Again, confirming that for our families that would like to remain in their current program, they can do so, and their current program will be, their schedule will be unchanged. Their teacher will be unchanged. And then the other is the in-person, either the Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday. And what I want to clarify here also, parents will be selecting in-person with distance learning. They won't be selecting either a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Wednesday, Friday. Our schools, when they get all of the information, will be then beginning to schedule and look at which kids are coming on which days, and there'll be special attention given if there are multiple siblings in a given school and things of that nature. We will try and make sure that we make every accommodation that we can to our families, because we certainly know during this time it's been incredibly challenging with our families that have the adults who have their own work schedules, trying to accommodate their children at home. So we understand how complex and how complicated and, quite frankly, inconvenient that this has been. And we're hoping and we'll make every effort to minimize the impact that that has. Parents will be receiving information tomorrow about this. And the information will be coming out from a number of different locations. So it'll come initially from the principals. Our parents probably pay most attention to the information if they get an email or any of the variety of strategies that our principals use to push information out electronically to our families. And I'll touch on, well, it still is an electronic version, but some of the other strategies that we will use to ensure that our parents are all connected. But it'll come from our principals, and then there will be reminders that come from Ms. Pinkerton in her office that are reminding our families where to go and what to do, because we would like to have all the selections made, 100% of our selections made by November 6th. And it may seem, when you go back and look at the date when we're able to open schools back up, which is early December, so it may seem like why we're doing it in relatively short notice. A couple of reasons. One is, hopefully it's a very easy thing, and it is an easy thing. The information that parents will be provided, there will be some screenshots that can guide people through. And there's also about a minute video that is, I reviewed it, in my personal opinion, is I thought it was excellent, because it walks you right through of how you get to parent view, and it's about 3, maybe 4 clicks in parent view to making the selection, and then you're done. And if you have multiple children, either in a single school or across schools, you'll be making those selections for each of your children. There may be families who feel like distance learning, 5 days of full distance learning is something that's needed for one child, but another child may, the other option of coming to school may be preferred for them. That is, that can be customized. It's not a single decision for a family. It's a single decision for individual students. The other thing I want to mention in terms of making sure that our families are informed, when we did this previously, meaning when we were looking at the preference survey, this isn't so much of a survey, this is actually parents making a selection. In addition to the information that went out electronically, we had a number of phone banks that were operating: our Office of Family and Community Engagement, our Department of English Learner Services. Those, Ms. Lavasser and Ms. Bollinger, have a tremendous partnership in reaching out to our families, and also in unique ways to our families that are our English learner families and our migrant families and immigrant families, rather. And it's also through learning support services and our Office of Attendance Improvement. So we'll have fully staffed phone banks that will be reaching out and making personal phone calls to help guide our families through, who we know may not be connected as of yet to Parent View, and may not be connected as they need electronically. In addition to that, the Office of Family and Community Engagement has approximately 7,000 letters that are ready to be mailed out that will also get to our families and notifying them. So we will do individual outreach with particular attention to, not exclusive to, but with particular attention to our Valley and Florin High School regions. So extensive efforts will be made, and we're trying to make this as simple as possible, but information is coming out as early as tomorrow. And then lastly, ongoing information that will be available. So our district's website is a great place to go, and you can also go to, parents often go to their school's website, and on the school's website, each of those will have a link that will take you to our COVID-related information, and we will have the COVID-related information neatly organized into 4 or 5, I believe it's 4 categories. And Ms. Pinkerton, I'll just ask you to touch on this when I'm finished, if you have any additional information to provide. But that's where we will have detailed documents. We're working on a one-stop shopping document that kind of can walk you through all the various elements of everything from what does it look like walking onto a campus to what are various protocols, so that we want parents to be able to make an informed choice. And as I indicated, there will be more detailed scheduling information. The other thing is where it notes here, virtual office hours. These two websites are extremely valuable and are centered through our Office of Family and Community Engagement. Tremendous resources are there. And those virtual office hours, I would just suggest that if anybody just wants to, you can click on that link that will take you to the homepage of our Family and Community Engagement Office, because we have folks available between the hours of 4 to 6 every day, on Tuesdays and Thursdays rather, to answer any and all questions about how to get connected, how to stay informed, and will assist every step of the way in ensuring that our families are able to make the choices and get the information that they need in order to best make those choices for their children. And with that, Madam President, I conclude the presentation, and I and a number of others are here. Oh, and I apologize just for a second. Ms. Pinkerton, anything to add regarding the availability of additional information coming out to our staff, students, and families?
No, I think you covered everything well. What we're trying to do is make sure that we maintain a central location where the information's held, meaning on our COVID-19 site where we've been keeping information. And we are working to make sure that school sites link to that central location. So we'll try to make it as clear as possible for everybody to access in one place, but from multiple locations.
Thank you, Ms. Pinkerton. And now, Madam President, back to you.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to get back to public comment for the rest of our board. There were 35 additional comments to stay in distance learning, 27 for distance learning or a better model, 9 distance learning till the end of the year, 5 open right away, and a few on safety. I now would like to call a 5-minute comfort break. We'll come back at 11:59, and we will have questions and comments from the board. We will start with Ms. Singh Allen, followed by Mr. Perez.
I'd like to go last. I would like to go last.
Mr. Perez, we do these in order, and we go one way and then the other.
Yes,
I would prefer you going when you're called on.
Yes, I'm going to take a longer than 5-minute break because of my health issue. I need to stretch my lower back, etc., etc. So please put me at last.
Mr. Forcina, would you mind swapping spots with Mr. Perez?
I would love to.
Okay, so we will start with Ms. Allen, followed by Mr. Forcina.
Thank you. Thank you.
That will put you right at the end, Mr. Perez. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break right now. My timer has gone off. Get everybody who can back on screen, that would be great. That is I see you're not on screen, but do we have you, Mr. Madison?
I'm here too, Beth.
Thank you. All right. We're ready to move on. Questions or comments, starting with Ms. Singh Allen, followed by Mr. Fortuna.
Thank you. A series of comments and then I think 2 questions. First and foremost, thank you for the presentation. You know, I've heard from an equal number of parents on both sides of the aisle, as well as the teachers that did reach out to me. So this is, you know, very mindful of that there's, the model isn't perfect, like we said earlier, and we are working in a pandemic, but there isn't a one size fits all that's going to make everyone happy. So recognizing that's an important consideration. You've heard it in the public comments. I think some of the highlights that I heard in our presentation that are just, that really stuck out with me is maintaining that relationship between students and teachers is obviously very important. The parents have an option, those that raised concerns, you have an option to stay in distance learning. And I understand that. I am a mother of a son with a pre-existing condition. He's in college now, but he's in distance learning because the exposure and the risk is high. So I'm glad he has that option, but so does all, you know, so do all of our families to address those concerns. And I've always said at the onset of this pandemic and during when we had school closures, is that the only acceptable loss of life is 0. And I think that our work and our collaboration has gone a long way to addressing the safety. Not only are we in the business of educating our students, but we want to make sure that our students and our staff are safe. But here's the, you know, the reality is I'm happy to hear from those parents who have reported that distance learning is working for them. That's great. But I have heard from so many where it's not. That lost learning is quite high. The mental health challenges, it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking because those numbers are staggering. So those are things that weigh heavy on my heart, is that lost learning and those mental health concerns. You know, we can't account for every sort of hypothetical scenarios, and that's evident. We have a good plan of how we've set things up, and I think that we are going to go a long way to preserving our safety of our students and our staff based on the protocols that we've seen identified. But I think what's also very important that I'm very proud of is that this model is a result of collaboration. Recognizing that it's not a one size fits all, it's not going to make everyone happy, but that's what collaboration looks like. You find the best possible solution and find the win-win that takes into consideration all points of view. We've had a lot of parent feedback through our surveys. We've have a negotiation process with our bargaining units and just the feedback that we've received, including the board's feedback. And so I think what we have is a result of that. And that's really important to keep in mind. The health and safety of the students, but then also ensuring that our schools and our classrooms are safe. That's very important. So I'm glad that we included the, you know, our ventilation system, the HVAC and the sanitation process of making sure that the school sites themselves are also safe, because it's beyond just having the PPE equipment, which keep us safe, but we need to make sure that our environment is safe. So I was very happy to see the inclusion of that. And then of course our food and nutrition services, that's really important. I'm so proud of the work that we've done at the onset of keeping our students fed, to have that continuity, because more often than not, this conceivably is perhaps the only nutritious meal that our students get on a daily basis. So I'm very proud of the work that we've done to make sure that we have healthy meals available to our students. That leads me to our, and then I also want to recognize the exhaustive methods that we are utilizing to communicate with our parents, that this isn't just a check mark available on our website. We are using all means necessary to communicate. That is the best way to get our outreach and our message to our families. And so I'm really happy to see that we are using exhaustive methods to adhere to that. My two questions, one is related to special education. And I think I heard it in one of the comments, if I'm not mistaken. What do we do with our students with IEPs? How do we treat that?
So what we've been doing since the outset, Ms. Singhal, thank you for the question, is all of our case managers are teachers, supported by our site administrators and program specialists, and also related service providers. And that's a generalized term for other staff that work directly with our students with disabilities. Our school psychologists, for example, maybe mental health therapists, occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, OT, physical therapists. All of them have been reaching out, working directly, and what we're doing is, to the greatest extent possible, providing services comparable to those that are defined and identified through the student's IEP. And again, are we capable of providing the type of service for our students that we were able to provide face-to-face 5 days a week? The answer is no. But to the greatest extent possible, I can say comfortably that it is an improvement from where we were in the spring, which was, I think it was a monumental effort, but where we are this first quarter of this year is significantly different. But certainly we aren't able to do a number of things that we were able to do when it was in person. Thus, it is IEP-based services. IEP meetings are taking place, and in-person assessments are taking place. And so, and there's a great deal of effort being made, because this past spring, when we could do no face-to-face work whatsoever, the assessments, IEPs continued, but we've gotten better at it, just as everybody's gotten better at navigating the Zoom modality of meetings. But we are taking very concentrated efforts to catch up on the assessments. To put it into context, it was approximately 800 assessments that should have been done this spring that we were unable to do, that are now being, we are working on basically catching up. That's a concentrated effort that is taking place. Thank you,
Mr. Cerruti. My second question is related to protocols in a given classroom. What are our protocols? What does that look like? Say there's an outbreak, or one or two students or a teacher in this cohort that tests positive. What happens next?
I'll ask Ms. Elmatari she'll be best able to respond. And then just before she does, this is just sharing it here with the number of participants. There were 300 plus, but that certainly doesn't cover the entire district. We will have very explicit documents that are easy to find and easy to read, that are available for our families. And I just want to reinforce that's the communication that we will be providing. But in direct response, Ms. Elmatari is best able to respond to that.
Thank you.
Hi. Yes. So if there is a positive case on campus or in a classroom, the school nurse and or myself are notified right away. Then a school nurse or myself will call the family specifically of the positive case, or even a close contact case, gather all the information that we need to figure out and determine exactly the situation and who may have been affected. And we do then report to Sac County Public Health. specifically our positive cases, and work with them through the specific cases and follow and use their guidelines and guidance of what needs to happen next. In general, if a cohort, if there is a positive case in the classroom, potentially all the students in there would be asked to quarantine and transition to full distance learning until either we can determine exactly how affected everyone would be or who is affected specifically. So that is, in general, that is the procedure and possibility that the cohort will transition to full distance learning for the 14 days or until we could figure out exactly who was affected. With close contacts, if a student or staff member in the cohort in the classroom have a close contact with someone outside of the classroom that tested positive, then we notify still all the families that there is someone in the classroom that had a close contact. Again, with all these cases as well, our amazing custodial team has a specialized team that comes in and does extra deep cleaning for all the affected areas with close contacts and with positive cases. So it is possible that a cohort
would be tested that were in close contact to the exposure.
What would be recommended is that they follow up with their physician at this time. We are currently working on a testing plan and possibly looking at possibility of testing students as well that are in close contact to a positive case. But definitely we would recommend that they follow up with their physician for further guidance as well. Also in Elk Grove, we currently are working with the city and county to open a community testing site in Elk Grove. So that is also a possible option for families when there is a positive case on campus.
And when you say community testing, will that be at no charge to the community?
Correct.
Okay.
It would be free for the whole Elk Grove community.
Okay. That's super helpful. And then I thought I had another question. You went through the protocols. Ultimately, I mean, this is all contingent upon our reopening on us getting to that orange tier and that 2 weeks, that 2 week threshold. And I guess what concerns me is we may not get there considering the numbers are going up. And I know that that's a reality, but this is a reminder for those that want to come back on campuses. We all have a responsibility to get to that orange level and stay there. That's the only way we're going to get these numbers to come down, is being responsible and modeling that behavior ourselves. So I think that's all I have for right now. But great presentation. I know I'm not alone. We want our children in classrooms where they learn the best and they thrive. So hopefully we will get there sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the orange requirement is to have them back prior to this, back this calendar year. Okay, Mr. Fortuna and Ms. Signon, will you mute?
Yes.
Thank you. I thoroughly understand the proposed concurrent transitional model, and it is a model that I do not support. I have comments that I will make, but I will reserve those comments until a vote is made on the ratification of the MOU. But what I do need to say right now is that when the choice is given to parents, it is paramount that we are clear in the communication so that all parents understand that, quote, in-person education is not, in fact, in-person education, other than the kids will go to school 2 days a week with their Chromebooks. That really, there are minimal differences for the child between being educated at home with utilizing the Zoom platform and going to school 2 days a week to use the Zoom platform. And so parents need to know that, so that they're clear in their understanding when they make their decision made. So that's the only comment I have right now. Because just to say, do you want your kids to go to school 2 days a week, doesn't really communicate to them that there is primarily no difference between going to school and staying home, except, you know, maybe the kids have to put clothes on that they don't necessarily have to do now. So those are my comments for right now, and I'll make other comments later on.
Mr. Vorchina,
Yes.
feel the same with pre-K, K, and 1?
Yes.
Thank you. Our next person, Mr. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a whole lot of questions or anything, just a few comments. Obviously, you know, it was a lot of hard work and attempt to figure out how safe can we return kids to school. And I think a lot of efforts, a lot of minds, a lot of thoughts have gone into it. And it's pretty evident we did not shoot from the hip. I should say the staff or our district. As a large district, we are trying to take as much precaution as necessary so that we can return kids to school. You know, I'm concerned, I think Ms. Allen mentioned it, the lost learning of a lot of our children, particularly in certain parts of our district, some of the lost learning that has taken place, and the mental health part of it as well too. You know, and I listened to all the various comments that came across, that was read, and it's 50-50. There's no silver lining or bullet that we can appease everybody. I am a proponent that, you know, the kids need to come back to school in some form or another. I see the 2 days coming back for children. For me, it's a positive. I don't look at it as simplistic as coming back with a Chromebook. I think these kids need to see a teacher in person. I think it, for many of them, not all, but many of them, it has, for me, a profound effect on them, that they can't see their teacher in person. I just feel that a lot of kids, we do need in-person instructions. There's no doubt about that. I think most of the board members, you know, we want all the kids back to school. But again, it comes to a line of caution and safety. And I think overall, as a district, we have done a good job in this. Here it is now, we are coming to conclusion in November. And no, we didn't do like a lot of districts where we just came back in all of a sudden and then closed up and didn't give it a lot of thought. And I think there's a lot of thought put in this. We have options. You know, if parents want to keep their kids on distance learning, they can do so. But I truly feel that this concurrent transitional model is not the best solutions for everybody, but I do believe it's a step in the right direction. And in terms of my questions, I did have one question about the IEP that Mrs. Allen brought up, but that was answered, so I appreciate that part of it. But right now, those are my comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Dr. Martinez-Solier?
I appreciate the comments by my fellow colleagues. Overall, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this by the staff and the presentation. I want to say the presentation was thorough and that it addressed transportation needs, food services. I, as well as some of the comments made previously, am a proponent of going back to school, of course, eventually when it's safe. I think all of us have that health and safety at our forefront. And I can just speak for myself saying that. I know there's others who've mentioned that as well. And for me, it's knowing that the county and where we are right now doesn't allow for that full reopening, right? We're not even at the minimal risk of cases at this time frame. I'm not saying that may not change in the future. We all know that given the circumstances we're under with the COVID, it seems like from week to week, month to month, things change and they can change drastically. That's why we took the measures we needed to in March when we did the closure. I know that this is a step forward. A piece of the puzzle is a starting point. It's not fully equipped likely as we would ultimately want it to be. But for me, it's moving the step where it needs to go. There are some students, I believe, that will help or benefit by going back to in-person. Of course, those same mental health concerns or reservations, when you look statistically at mental health and what's going on in the nation and throughout the state, and that being a huge concern in the social interaction between children. So they may not personally be touching one another or coming in that close of a contact, but even being in the same space or in a classroom, allowing for that engagement, even if it's 6 feet apart. Some students may need that. And also looking at the IEPs and special education, there's just different needs for different student populations. And for me, it's trying to meet those students where they're at. And I know we are looking and trying to provide the best care we can with the ventilation systems that we talked about, the PPE that will be at school site. And so I just, for me, want that reassurance. If anybody needs those gears, such as face shields, or if somebody comes in and they do have or showing symptoms, that we have the appropriate steps and the processes in place to address that. And I believe, Mark, Mr. Cerruti, you had alluded to that in your presentation. And so for me, those are some of the questions that I had, just to make sure we're maintaining the supplies we need, because that has in the past, hearing previous comments. Also, again, similar to what Mr. Madison had alluded to in his conversation and comments, that we're not going to appease everybody. But I do appreciate the fact we are making a conscious and concerned effort to have choice for our families. So those that don't feel it's safe for their student, or maybe that's not the right pathway for their individual student, they can remain distance learning. And those that would like to try the 2 days a week, or who may need that more touch or to be on the physical school campus, will have that option too. So as we plan to roll things out, I hope we'll have more of those questions answered. I know a lot of this is the flexibility, right? We don't know how many students yet until we start this process will need transportation, or we don't know, exactly what we're looking at as far as numbers for certain components, but I hope we can start to build those pieces forward to plan the next steps appropriately. So those are just some of my comments, and I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez-Alier. Ms. Charis Espinoza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will start with comments and then I'll go to questions. First, I think this was addressed by staff, but I just want to reiterate the why now question that a lot of the parents or staff are asking. And that is the question about why start before the holidays, before the regular flu season. And I want to address that because it was one of the questions that I had personally when we started talking about this plan. And the possibility of giving our youngest students, those who are really struggling with distance learning, 4 to 5 weeks of in-person instruction is tremendous for them. So that is really the answer to the why. And of course, our special education students who really struggle with distance learning. I also view this plan as imperfect, just like everything. Our pre-pandemic general instructional model was also not a one size fits all, which is why we had to offer so many supplements and variations of it. But I think the two options, the two choices that we're offering to students and families do cover the needs of most of our students. I appreciate the detail that was provided on the changes in the physical environment. I think most of us on the board were able to tour some of the model classrooms. And I do want to caution students and parents that the physical environment, for those of you who will be returning, is very different. A lot of touch points, a lot of manipulatives have been removed, have been put away. That's, again, we're trying to limit transmission. So the classroom itself will look different. Just really a heads up. I also want to say I appreciate the additional communication, the idea of office hours for parents asking questions so that they can make an informed choice. That's very much appreciated. I know that our FACE and English learner offices have been essentially operating as phone banks just to make sure that those communities are incorporated into the ongoing parental surveys. And I would just hope that they are able to do some component of office hours as well for those communities. Under health and safety, I just want to reiterate that we are able to recommend, but we're legally not able to require that students be tested for COVID-19. So that applies both prior to going back and also if a student is in close contact with someone who is positive or showing symptoms. So we can recommend, we can ask, but we can't legally compel them to do that. So I just want to be clear that it's, you know, the plan doesn't require it because we're not able to require it. I appreciate the clarification on what does in-person mean, because this is the area where I'm seeing the most questions. And just for my own understanding and for those folks at home trying to make an informed choice, am I correct in understanding that in-person means that the student will be looking at their teacher, having some eye contact during that general delivery of lessons, right? We've provided webcams so that teachers can provide that instruction simultaneously to those students who are in person and those students who are online. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. In addition to that, so the short answer is yes, that is accurate. The other is that I think two other aspects of this, which include in some of our classrooms, there will be paraeducators. So paraeducators will be there to assist students as well. And that's, and we want to clarify that the total number of bodies in a classroom. So we'll make sure that, you know, it's not, we aren't just focusing on the social distancing between students, it's between all the humans in that environment. And then the other aspect of that is that at the end of it, for example, at the secondary level where there is the extended classroom periods, there'll be opportunities where the teacher may be having kids in the classroom working independently while they're working with students that are online, providing more direct support. And similarly, they could be providing some additional direct support. I'm not saying for a second, if there are teachers watching this, they may be saying, you're not in the classroom, you don't know, this is going to be challenging, and we fully acknowledge that. But it is opportunities also beyond the direct instruction for those kids to interact one-on-one or even in small groups. And when I say that, it's adhering to social distancing, but nonetheless, they will be able to interact directly with that teacher and with their peers in the classroom.
Thank you. And you hit on what my next related question was, the small group time that we have in the distance learning schedule. For those kids who are in class, in person, their small group time will be in person, correct? Because I think some parents think that they'll still be doing that through the computer, even though they're in the classroom. So could you clarify that?
Well, again, it depends upon exactly what sort of activities are taking place. And so they're like anything, and when I say that, it isn't the same. I just want to keep referencing that. I fully acknowledge it, but there may be times when I'm teaching and I'm doing the direct, you're listening and you're listening to me. There may be other times when it's, here's what we've talked about, now here's what I want you to do. And so it's more, for kids that are social distancing or for the kids that are home, they would be working independently. It is an opportunity for those kids in the classroom that turn to your partner or the three of you have conversations around what it is that you're talking about or that we just talked about. So there are those opportunities. It's not going to be just the experience in the classroom will not be exactly the same as the experience at home.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think I've also heard some questions from parents about why do we need to do it this way? And my understanding is because, why do students in class have to work online at all or independently at all? And the answer to that is because the teachers would need to work with other students either in class or devote some of their time to those kids who are distance learning. So just wanted to answer that.
And if I could, just for a second, because it's crucial, and I appreciate the perspective that the board has in terms of the opportunity to have kids return, that this does provide an opportunity for kids to see other kids and to be in a social setting, albeit a unique social setting. The other is continuity. Yeah. And we had people, myself, others who have extensive experience in developing master schedules. We had teams of people, teams of site administrators, teachers engaged in this work, our bargaining unit leaders looking at, and if an advantage of the concurrent model, we heard there was an example when we were talking about when Ms. Almatari was responding to Ms. Singh Allen's questions regarding some testing and some of those types of things and what happens. And it was, well, kids in that classroom are going to need to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. That means they're not coming to school. In the prior model, what would happen with those students? It was likely they were going to be separated from their teacher. Yeah. Because it made it so complex in terms of who was going to be full here and who was going to be full there. We were going to have to completely redo schedules. Yeah. And so again, nothing is perfect, but I really want to emphasize that what this model does, a significant advantage is to maintain the continuity that currently exists between the teachers and their kids and the kids and their schedules.
Thank you for highlighting that, Mark. I think that is a really important point. I want to thank everyone who submitted public comment and who has contacted us directly. It's obviously not just a benefit to those of us who will be voting on this MOU, but I think it also goes a long way to educate other members of the community about diverse experience people are having under distance learning currently, and of course how the plan, the concurrent education plan, would affect people differently. There are students who are not only surviving, but thriving under distance learning. And we know that, right? We're not actually surprised because this is why pre-pandemic we offered things like the Las Flores Virtual Academy, Elk Grove Charter, because there are students for whom that model really works. And I fully expect that, post-pandemic, there are families who are going to choose to continue in that model, and that is wonderful. We, of course, spend most of our time thinking about where we need to supplement and provide additional assistance for those kids for whom this is not working. And I'm not, I don't want to be shy about saying that those kids weigh very heavily on my mind whenever I look at plans like this. So let's see. I thought there was an interesting question that was raised about the bandwidth capabilities in our school sites when all of our students are logged in. Pre-pandemic, I know it kind of depended on who had a cart. So could we have that question addressed, please?
Mr. Mate.
Yeah, I'm popping in just so you know, my name actually says David Riley on here because I had to use his link. So I am not trying to pretend and say I'm David Riley. So bandwidth wise, we should be fine at our schools. We've confirmed that because we have one access point in every room. We've got plenty of bandwidth at our schools out to the internet. And actually an interesting phenomenon we're trying to deal with too is that all schools in the county try to come back, lots of them are doing very similar plans. And so our main internet provider all goes through the Sacramento County Office of Ed. And so do they have enough bandwidth to then handle us at that point? And we had a meeting a few weeks ago, and we believe that we do have enough for all the schools to come back and are actually working on ways to increase that bandwidth as a county. So I guess the way to answer it quickly is yes, we'll be fine bandwidth wise.
Steve, I just want to make sure this is accurate to say, Nancy, one of the other things we're doing is we're upgrading teacher machines. So one of the things that we may be running into is the age of some of the actual teacher machines could be part of the slowness piece, but we're addressing that piece as well through this process. But I don't really think it's a bandwidth issue in some cases. Sometimes it's a hardware issue.
Correct. And we placed the order for the 4,000 laptops that will be coming in. It's going to take a little bit of time. They're not going to just pop in a couple in 2 months, but we are working towards getting all teachers to have updated computers as well. And that does make a difference.
Thank you both. A related question, I'm not sure if this is you, Steve, or if this is a facilities question, but we are of course asking all students parents to make sure that devices are fully charged overnight. What are we providing in the event that, some students forget? It's going to happen. And I'm asking because here's one more thing, hopefully we can take off of teachers' plates. I know the idea of having cords and power strips running across a classroom floor is going to make our risk management folks have heart palpitations, but are there enough outlets in classrooms? What can we do in that area?
Yeah, that's one actually we're working on right now, because finding power bricks and that many to have back in schools outside of the devices actually is another challenge too that we're working on. So we're in a huge just ordering and trying to figure all this stuff out. So that is something on our agenda. We're trying to figure the best out. But there won't be outlets out by the seats. There's not power down in the floor. So for students that forget, they'll charge rather quickly. And they should be able to get enough juice to do some short things if they leave it off to the side. If we use outlets within the room that are there with a power strip, I'm assuming it'll probably be maybe 1, maybe 2 kids that would forget to do that. So be able to have a few charging outlets in the room, but that's something we're working on. I don't have the exact answer what that will look like yet though.
Thank you, Steve. I would like to know what kind of mechanisms we have for teacher support. I'm grateful to professional development. I know they've done really a heroic effort over the summer in all of the PD that they've offered, and to our teachers who have engaged in thousands of courses to learn how to do this better. But for those who are still telling us they're drowning, they need some help in figuring out how to make this work, and now they're heading into the concurrent model. What systems do we have to identify those folks and to provide additional support?
Great question, Nancy. Thank you for asking. And then I'll provide some information, and then Ms. Avey, you can jump in with any additional detail that you may have. So several things is it's not only curriculum and professional learning. Curriculum and professional learning is somewhat the hub, but they're working directly. Ms. Avey's department works directly, for example, with Ms. Bollinger and the EL, our English learner department, and just examining the needs that our teachers have. There are planned trainings that are continuing to take place, but in addition to that, there's very close and tight 360 feedback loops. So for example, we have our instructional coaches, and our instructional coaches, their job has shifted. A lot of what they used to be doing was working with individual schools and small groups of teachers, or actually even individual teachers in supporting them. Now their job has shifted where it's 75 to 85% is training development and then responding to those individual questions. And so I don't have here is the 5 things that we are doing, but the thing is our program specialists and our coaches and our directors across the district, we have such close relationships with our staff that individual teachers, I believe, feel very comfortable either informing their principals or working directly with the staff in curriculum and professional learning. And if we hear individual questions that, well, this one's a new one. We haven't heard this one before. We oftentimes think you're probably not the only one, or we've heard this request now X number of times. We need to, this is an area we need to provide training and offer up that training. And so, and we're going to need to continue to do that. And in particular, now it's going to be focusing on what are effective strategies when you're working with, again, I'm just using it as an example. If I'm a high school math teacher and I've got 20 kids that I'm looking at and working here, and I've got 10 to 12 in my classroom, what are the best strategies for doing that? And we aren't doing it in isolation. We're also tapping into the people. Our teachers have done some phenomenally innovative things, and that's being shared across the district. I was having a conversation just the other day, and the topic came up regarding our college and career connections, meaning our CTE programs, and some of the things, and Ms. Ross talking about some of the things that our CTE teachers are doing very innovatively to engage kids, even through the distance learning piece. So Ms. Avey, if you would, if there's anything that you wanted to add more specific than what I shared, that would be terrific, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I would just add that we have ongoing office hours set up through Zoom based on grade levels, and also with content areas that allow our teachers to be able to drop in to receive support. And there isn't always an agenda that's set up by our department. It's an open agenda, so that if somebody drops in and needs support on navigating a tool that they're using, if it's looking for a method, a way to engage kids, if it's directly related to our assessments, then they're put into a breakout room with the coach or coaches, program specialists that are manning those office hours, and they're provided that direct support. So that has been ongoing, that will be continue. And then we take a lot of that information, as Mr. Cerruti said, and use that to create district-wide trainings that provide that support. We've also launched our early literacy trainings that are happening. So within that, and all of our trainings were focused on the framework for high quality instruction and what that looks like in a distance learning environment, but also in real time. So that when we're talking about the best methods to engage students, to reach students, that we're looking at it through both of those lenses of distance and in person. We work really hard to be responsive in the moment.
Thank you, Ms. Avey. Okay. So what I'm hearing is, for those teachers who are listening, it's not just you. We are in fact asking a lot of you. So please reach out and use these resources that are available if you have any need for additional support. And also to parents who want to know why we are not able to offer more FaceTime or less online or independent learning, it is because, again, we are asking a lot of our teachers, and we are asking as much as we think we can reasonably ask of them. So related question, for those teachers who have a lot of ELs or a lot of special ed students in their class, what kind of support can we provide, right? So if they have a lot of special ed students, there may be some paraeducators in that classroom, but what about the case where there are a lot of English learner students? Can we provide an additional body and additional educator in that room?
In terms of additional bodies in the classroom, I'll turn that over to Ms. Bollinger, and Ms. Bollinger can share with you strategies that we're using and how we're best supporting our EL kids.
Yeah, good afternoon. I think obviously we would follow, first of all, the guidelines, the health and safety guidelines for capacity within the room. However, we still have our bilingual teaching associates who have already been supporting our sites through Zoom, even with primary language support. In addition, with our CARES Act funding, we are looking at EL supports during intersession for our year-round schools, additional newcomer training and professional learning, in addition to the professional learning we're already providing teachers, admin, and classified staff supporting English learners. We are in collaboration with family and community engagement. We are going to be creating newcomer centers, or centers in which we can provide additional resources, not just to our newcomer students, but also to our families in both academics and SEL. And part of that will include tutoring. And then, of course, with our amazing EL instructional coaches who have been actively supporting at all levels, TK through 12th grade, with individual teachers, departments, and school sites. So those are just some of the ways they've supported, as well as with the guidance documents, which include lessons and examples that teachers can pull directly from. And as mentioned, I believe in one of the last board meetings, we were able to acquire Imagine Learning for all of our English learners, no matter their level, which, based on usage data as well as progress data, we're seeing that as a really successful supplemental support for our English learners.
Thank you, Ms. Bollinger. Those sound like great resources. I hope there will be, as our usual courses, some ongoing monitoring just to make sure that that level of support is sufficient. And if not, please come back to us. Let us know if additional resources are necessary.
Yeah, I can just add as well, we have our program implementation continuum, or PIC, in which we collaborate with RED. So we're continuing to look at data through that, especially we're adapting it for this time of distance or the concurrent transitional model. And so that's something that we'll look at, and we continue to get feedback directly from our sites and from our teachers, and also our families, especially during DLAC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Going back to all of the things that are on teachers' plates outside of actual instruction, I just wanted to be clear that teachers do not have any responsibilities like taking meal orders or things like that. So food and nutrition services, what, if anything, are we asking of teachers?
That's correct. Teachers won't be responsible for that. We have put in place some software that parents can potentially pre-order meals, but we will accommodate that and organize that all at the food and nutrition services level. Teachers won't be responsible for that.
Thank you. I also just wanted to send a shout out and some appreciation to our custodial and maintenance staff. I'm glad that the public was able to hear about all of the additional things that they have been doing, that they are going to be doing to keep our students and staff safe. It is much appreciated. Let's see. Mr. Cerruti, on slide 19, I thought a clarification might be in order with respect to parental choice. I think it's just the wording, but since all of us are going to be directing parents to the slideshow and to the tape of this meeting, just to clarify that in-person instruction is going to be offered 2 days a week. The wording kind of implies that in-person is available 3 days a week. See number 19. So in-person with distance learning 2 days per week. I think maybe there's a comma missing there, but in-person 2 days per week, distance learning 3 days per week, regardless of which option you choose. Well, regardless of which cohort you're in is, I think we could just make that a little bit more clear. Last comment / question from me. Are we providing a self-screening checklist to our families? I believe we've already done that for staff. And does that include information on the threshold and way to report to the district if you've had a close contact with a COVID positive individual?
We will have that information, but and we can let Ms. Almatari provide more detail.
Yes, we already have created a checklist, like a daily checklist, kind of like the ones with the staff, and information on how to report of a close contact or a positive case will be communicated to families prior to returning on campus.
Excellent. Thank you all for responding to my questions. Madam Chair, that's all for me.
Mr. Fortuna. Mr. President, do you have a comment or a question, sir?
Can you hear me?
Can you say it again?
Can you hear me?
You're very low. I don't know why it's so quiet, not as loudly as normal.
Can you hear me? No.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, mate.
Yes.
Hey, mate. Please adjust. All right. I am not support of this program for the very similar reasons that Forcina mentioned earlier. It's not perfect. You have to have a perfect situation in this pandemic arena time zone. If you don't, you're going to get sick, and you're going to get, if you recover, you're going to have long-lasting health issues. You're going to go home, infect, and do community spread. And then your mother, your father, your grandparents, whoever live in your household will have to go down and get tested. A doctor will not go in his emergency room unless he is 100% perfect conditions in that surgery. Same thing we have to do in this classroom, in this school setting. We have to be 100% positive that students will not get sick. No staff person will get sick. We will be responsible for those individuals if they get sick. And our number one priority as a board member is for the health and safety of everybody within our district. And this program doesn't guarantee that. Mr. Hoffman said it's not perfect. Mr. Cerruti said it was not perfect. Many other staff said it's not perfect. So why would you put your children, your students and staff in that situation to either get sick, spread community spread, COVID-19 community spread, go to another level? We are plateauing right now. I don't predict that we're going to get any lower than it is today because there's a plateau. If you read the Sacramento Bee, if you read the health reports of different geographical areas of California, the nation, the Midwest is breaking out like wildfire. And you don't think that some of that people are going to be coming to California and community spread, trying to get out of that environment? We are just, and this program just, to me, is committing ourselves to failure. We have to be perfect, 100% perfect. Not only that, I said we have to be best in distance learning because we don't know what's going to happen right now. This virus, COVID-19, is also mutation. So by the time we get to our vaccine, we're going to probably need another vaccine for another type of virus. And we're going to have to continue distance learning again and again and again. This distance learning right now, what we're doing today is preparing for tomorrow's next epidemic. And we have to be 100% sure that we put our educational system, the best in the nation, best in the world, in that type of setting. Not setting up our students for failure, not setting up our students for health and safety issues and our community. It's okay. I can't believe this. Look, let me tell you about my past history of my work. 25 years in the actual classroom and educational setting, another
Mr.
23.
Talk to our plan, please.
Yes. So I have experience in public health, 23 years in public health. I did Title V family health indicators. Our students' health behavior is not the best in the world in the United States. California health reports of our students in California, the health behavior. And yeah, I don't think a lot of our students are going to wear masks, or they're not going to wear it properly. So you're setting up our community for COVID-19 exposure, the health and safety of our community. Okay, our students' health behaviors. You look on teenage pregnancies, drug use, alcohol use,
Perez,
all these
we're
things.
off topic.
Okay. So I'm very concerned about bringing our students back on campus. Very concerned.
We hear
And
you.
And I don't think, number two, it's equitable. I brought this up to your attention the last meeting, but you didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want to talk about equity in our communities of color, about servicing those individuals and exposure to those. And let me tell you right now.
When you say you, do you mean me?
The board, I'm telling everybody, when we had a meeting.
Okay, I think we had a very clear answer to that last time, Mr. Perez.
Of this issue, there's communities within California who have
Nancy,
more exposure to COVID. And you don't take that into consideration.
Mr. Perez, that's an accusation you've made. And
no,
now
that's a fact.
Excuse me. You've had your turn. Ms. Chair, Elsa would like to respond as she did last time. Would you please be quiet to listen to her?
Mr. Perez, just to remind you, when you brought that up last time, the suggestion that you are making to apply what you're calling equity to differentiate with respect to reopening schools, what it really means in this case is that we should offer some of our students the opportunity to go back to in-person learning, but not all of them. However, given that this decision is based on health and health risk, this is not a situation where we need to differentiate and provide an opportunity only for some students when we are actually able to offer it to all of our students.
The second part I want to finish, Mr. Perez, is you say we are not taking into consideration the equity parts of choosing the health. We are following the Sacramento County Health Guidelines, which are the state guidelines, which include the equity piece you were speaking of last time. That's included in the piece that is helping make the decision. So we have based our decision upon a metric and data that includes the equity you are looking for. I'm muting myself, but you need to unmute yourself, sir.
I didn't unmute myself. Who muted me? Hello, you hear me?
We can all hear you now. I mentioned you needed to unmute yourself. I don't have the power to mute you or unmute you, sir.
Steve, did you mute me earlier?
No, nobody's muted you.
I didn't mute myself.
It happens to me sometimes too. We can hear you now.
Okay. This new equity metric, which emerged from Governor Newsom's task force on business and job recovery, is a powerful idea for both advancing racial justice and creating a sustainable path to economic recovery. Before a county is allowed to move to less restrictive tiers in the state's reopening framework, the bottom quartile of census tracts in that county, as measured by the Healthy Places Index based on 25 indicators of economic, social, education, transportation, housing, environmental health, must separately meet specifically reopening criteria. In particular, this approach requires counties to reduce test positive rates in the least well-off communities to match or come close to the county's average, which gives counties incentives to test, trace contact, and launch prevention and clinical care programs in the communities that need it most. And our communities of color here in Sacramento have the highest incidence of COVID-19. And you're not taking that into consideration in using this model or reopening the schools. Okay, and just recently, our county health officials are not even adhering to their mask requirements, and they test positive right now. So it's a problem not only within the community, it's a problem at the county level of government. They do not wear masks, and so you tell me. I asked for this data. I asked, tell me within Elk Grove Unified School District who has the highest incidence of COVID-19. You couldn't tell. You don't use it until I brought it up to you. Oh, yeah, there is one, but you never brought it to attention of my fellow board members. So they're making decisions based on no data. So there's no data here for me and my fellow board members to make a good decision on the health and safety of our community, staff, children, and students within our community. So your objective is, I don't know what it is. Why it's so important to go back to school? Yeah, was it for football, athletics? You know, that isn't, health and safety is our number one concern. And that's not happening here in this district. I don't feel that at all. I do not trust and feel that because it's not perfect, that students will get infected, they will get lifetime health problems, and their family issues. So no way I'm gonna vote for this. You know, if anything, we need more people get on the internet to provide educational service to their parents and how to manage their parents through this distance learning. I haven't even seen that. Why are we not spending parent engagement on how to engage their students in this distance learning process? We have not spent no money on that issue. You know, that's what tears me up. You know, and also let me tell you this. You know, it's a sad case when we cannot even provide testing, right? Testing for our students. One of the biggest schools in California is providing $340 per student to test before they come to school, during time, and after, if they come back to school. And we cannot provide that. What's wrong with our district? You know, and they are going to get reimbursed by CARES monies. So it's not even coming out of their school budget, it's coming through the federal dollar. And we cannot even, that's why I asked earlier today through consent calendar, we spend, if you add all that money on tech, but we cannot spend money on direct services to our students and families within our district, that's a shame. That is a shame.
Hey, Tony, remember that our students can get tested for free by the county. We just can't legally force them to get tested.
Listen, here's another thing. Here. Technical assistance. The state of California will provide that. Yes.
Tony, we are on this item that has been noticed legally.
Yes. I know you're objecting. You're trying to get me off track. No,
I'm trying to get you on track, sir. I'm trying to get you what's on the
technical assistance can be provided to districts through the California Department of Education. But do we seek that to help our community of color? You know?
Is that a question you want answered, sir?
Okay. No, I'm just not. Please do not disrupt me, please. I'm on my subject matter. And you have done this prior at every meeting, try to distract me on my train of thought. Please do not interrupt me.
Okay, but would you please speak to the item on the agenda?
It is on the agenda. Okay. California Department of Public Health will assemble a health equity technical assistance team that will partner with key regional collaborators, advocacy groups, and districts throughout California. But yet we have no contact with them, no contact, and how to reopen our schools and provide services, testing, and even testing. We did a little bit of test. Oh, we're going to do this and that. We got to test the whole district, the whole community, in order to get into the lower level tier system, in order to be safe. Not until we have testing of all our students, and I will not vote to bring them back to school. And that's probably going to be mandatory very shortly.
We understand your perspective.
Just like tuberculosis, you know, it's not a killer, but this is a killer, but it's not mandatory. Isn't that a shame that it is?
Okay.
You know?
Excuse me, Madam President. It is now past 1 o'clock. And we still have another item to take care of, and we still have to hear from you once Mr. Perez is done. I have a very important meeting that I scheduled for 2 o'clock today, knowing that I would have plenty of time, but at this rate, that is going to really be a problem.
Understood. I think your fellow board member has asked you to wrap up, if you would, Mr. Perez. You are going on 17 minutes.
Well, how many minutes did Miss China's have? I didn't hear there was a time limit on this. This is again, a matter of life and death situation, a health and safety issue.
Mr. Perez,
And you want to just
it was a matter of reference. Would you please go ahead and wrap up? And if you have any direct questions, we are more than happy to answer them.
All right. Okay, the bottom line, I would not recommend any student to come back to school setting because
we got your point. We got your point.
Not perfect.
We understand, Mr. Perez.
Yes.
Thank you.
You can mute your mic, please.
Not only that, the flu season's coming up. The flu season's coming up. You got a parallel issues coming up that are going to create a lot of issues. The flu season.
We understand.
Okay, Madam Chair, can we move on?
Thank you, Mr. Perez. I appreciate the work that has gone into this report, and I know it is extensive. I appreciate Ms. Charis Espinosa's questions and will not re-ask such things, but the support and the recognition for our teachers, their need and our appreciation. I think the call by many members to be very transparent to what the kids are coming back to be at is important. And I just wanted to share a success story that was shared with me. I have a friend who is a teacher, and one of her children is in the very high need group that was able to come back with the small groups we reinstated, I believe, 2 Wednesdays ago. And she has seen his academic performance accelerate, just expand. And so just as we talk about different things for different people, it was a very heartwarming story that she is thrilled he's had that opportunity, and I hope it works that way for many children. I do have something to say that I'll talk about after the MOU or with my vote for the MOU. So
hey Beth, I think Chet and Crystal still needed to speak.
No.
Nope.
Line. We flopped Mr. Perez and Mr. Fortuna and Miss Spot, so it's weird that they're at the end. That's probably why you're
sorry.
We have our public hearing action item, the memorandum of understanding between Elk Grove Unified School District and Elk Grove Education Association 2020-2021 in-person / concurrent instruction model. Mr. Riley, would you please present the item?
Thank you, President Albiani, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman and Ms. Avalos. Elk Grove Unified School District and the Elk Grove Education Association have signed a memorandum of understanding for the 2021 school year related to an in-person concurrent instructional model in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Education Code Section 3540.2 stipulates a fiscal review by the Sacramento County Office of Education of negotiated agreements to determine the financial impact of the agreement on the district budget. The AB 1200 review has been approved by the Sacramento County Office of Education. As such, the board is being asked to open a public hearing and receive comments on the MOU, and also to close the public hearing after listening to the comments. After closing the public hearing, the board will be asked to take action to approve or ratify the MOU. Thank you.
You're muted, Beth.
Thank you. I'd like to open a public hearing and call on Ms. Pinkerton to read any public comments related to this item.
Yes, Madam Board President Albiani, there were 2 comments related to this item. The first comment is anonymous. The current MOU requires instructional coaches to work from a site during contractual hours. However, the large majority of school sites do not have space to house coaches that are not in common areas, or that are not in common areas or shared with other support personnel. Additionally, coaches support multiple sites, so being required to work from sites increases the possibility of spreading COVID to multiple sites, staff, students, and or increased exposure for ourselves. This is an issue of equity, not equality. Understandably, as a part of EGEA, we recognize that fellow members want equality between coaches and classroom teachers, but the nature of our work in supporting multiple sites, not having dedicated space to minimize contact, instructional coaches to contact, and the fact that our productivity has increased due to our accessibility and the use of virtual meeting platforms, I ask that the equity be considered instead of equality. Allow instructional coaches to continue working remotely and help decrease the spread of COVID-19. Thank you. The second comment is also anonymous. I appreciate the proposed plan and that it takes much into consideration of the many angles and perspectives involved. One party I advocate for are the children of EGUSD employees. According to the MOU, the option for employees with children are to either 1, utilize EGUSD daycare, or 2, bring the children to the school with the employee. These same employees are currently juggling their children at home. The children can get lunch, use the restroom, etc. as needed. If they were to follow their parents to the classroom, they would be placed secondary priority to the students. What if they need a restroom? The teacher will clearly be unable to help the child, especially since the teacher will need to clean the classroom between class periods. The child will have no opportunity to use the restroom since he or she should not be going to unsupervised like during the class period. The children with their own DL are now moving to 2 different locations during the week, neither of which gives them or her much attention. These are children who are too young to be left home alone, but now they either go to daycare or spend the day in the back of their parents' classroom, unable to have any freedoms needed. Then on the days the children have.
That's time for that comment.
Thank you. That concludes the comments.
Thank you. I would like to close public hearing and call for a motion to approve the MOU between Elk Grove Unified School District and the Elk Grove Unified Education Association.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. President, I was going to get a motion and then we can go through. Did you want to make the motion, Mr. President?
No, it's a.
Okay, let me get a motion.
I want to recap an issue.
I'm gonna get a motion and then I will call on each person.
Parliamentary, it's a parliamentarian issue.
Parliamentarian issue?
Yes, because the contract MOU that's on the agenda is the old one. And since then, it has been changed, and that's in less than 24 hours. It's been changed with less than 24 hours within a day. So we have a new MOU that's not out there to the public. It's less than 20. You just mentioned that earlier in our presentation. Somebody mentioned that they revised the MOU to.
No, we updated the PowerPoint. We didn't update the MOU.
No, okay, but because of the MOU, what do you call it? It's changed.
Mr.
Yeah,
Press,
the MOU, I can
Dates don't
clarify
change
this.
of opening.
The MOU has not changed. The MOU had an example in it that was based on previous information. But the way the MOU reads, it allows us to make changes to dates moving forward as the health guidelines from the county change. So the MOU has not changed at all, but because of what happened with the data from the county yesterday, the dates of when schools can open will be pushed back, but that didn't change the MOU. The MOU is still written correctly.
The MOUs had a particular, you change the particular dates of opening if the county opened yesterday to a lower tier.
That's incorrect.
I got the printout.
Yeah,
The
that's
printout
incorrect.
there. What?
There was an example in the MOU. There was an example, but it's not, but it's just an example. That example is still in the MOU. It hasn't changed, but now how the MOU is going to be activated is based on the 2 weeks after we enter orange. That's still in place and it hasn't been changed.
Well, you know what? The people do not understand that. If you want to bring that up, they don't understand.
okay, Mr. Press, your point of order has been taken. Now I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. May I have a second, please?
Second.
For Ms. Allen. Thank you. So, Mr. Fortuna, do you have any comment?
Yes, thank you. Shortly, the board's going to be asked to ratify the memorandum of understanding between the Elk Grove Education Association and the Elk Grove Unified School District. And at that time, I'm going to vote no. And I'm going to vote no for several reasons, not all of which I will address. First, I have and I continue to represent a large group of caring constituents that have not been heard and their opinions not solicited, violating the precious principles of inclusion, transparency, and accountability. Secondly, the proposed education plan is not an in-person, interactive, challenging education as we know it. Instead, what is being proposed, according to one of my constituents, is Zoom in the room. Distance learning has been extremely challenging for our marvelous teachers. Teachers that had to learn a new educational model with minimal preparation time and are now being asked to modify that program, the program they are just learning to become comfortable with for no logical purpose or gain. We need to be honest about the proposed concurrent model because there is no additional teacher-student interaction other than to say, good morning, take a seat, and open your Chromebook. And there will be minimal student-to-student interaction. If the district and the association were not going to support an in-person option with its full complement of sports, clubs, theaters, and other activities, then we should ensure the best distance learning program possible and just say, we'll see you next school year. It is a misnomer to refer to what is being proposed as in-person instruction. It is not that. What we are going to do in this particular model is just give the illusion of providing a better quality of education, but in fact, we are not. So as I said, I will vote no when we take our vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fortuna. Ms. Charis Espinoza. Mr. Fortuna, thank you also for keeping it short. We would need to try to be less than 4 minutes to get ourselves out of here at a reasonable time. Make our next appointment, if possible.
Madam Chair, I think I've made all the comments I need to make. Just to reiterate, this is not a perfect plan, of course, but I think it does the best at balancing the competing needs of our students and staff. So aye, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Martinez-Solier?
I'm similar in that I made my comments earlier. I just would like to say, you know, it's not an easy decision that we're making here, when to move forward, but I am trying to make the best informed that I can with the information before me, and know and understand this next step in the process is the next step back.
Thank you. Mr. Madison?
Yes, Madam Chair, I don't have any more detailed comments at all, except for the 63,000 students that we have in this district. I think this plan, this model benefits the overall 63,000 students in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perez?
What are we voting on? It's not talking about the model or what?
Mr.
Or the
Perez, we
MOU.
had a motion to approve the MOU between the Elk Grove Unified School District and the Elk Grove Education Association.
Oh, well, Mr. Madison talked about a model. We're not approving the model. We're approving the MOU.
The model is within the MOU. The
Oh,
model's outlined in the MOU.
Okay. Yes, I do not support the model or this. I consider it, I'm going to say it like I told you before, a bonus. You know, teachers are required to teach, you know, regardless if there's a pandemic or emergency, they're supposed to be in that classroom. And this, you know, and for those other reasons that you had told me in the closed session, I do not support those reasons. Okay. And too bad the public is not aware of that. But if they knew that, they would support me in my decision and Dr. Fosina on this MOU. And then the cost of it, you haven't even brought up the cost, the fiscal impact. Again, you allude to the fact that it's going to cost this district X amount of dollars, and this MOU is going to reflect all the other MOUs that we're going to have to negotiate with other bargaining units. So, you know, why don't you talk about the fiscal impact on your report? And then where the money's coming from? Again, you do not give the public information where it's coming from the reserves. And can we take money from the reserves? Is that legal?
The board has that authority, yes.
Yes. Okay, if we're going to give, what was the fiscal impact? What's the fiscal impact?
Ms. Hayes, you want to hit the specifics?
Sure. The fiscal impact for what, Mr. Perez? Just for
For this MOU?
For the MOU, the fiscal impact is $2.9 million.
Right, and as you said earlier, this is going to affect all the other MOUs that we have in other bargain units, and it could a total $5.5 million on a one-time bonus. That's what I call it, a bonus.
You can use the word bonus. It's an off-schedule agreement for off-schedule payment, 1%.
To negotiate and to approve a MOU. That again, it's a very, I can't believe that. Yeah.
I understand your concern.
We won't agree. We will not go in the classroom. You know, that, I don't know, it's almost taking you hostage. You know, I don't believe that. I don't bargain that way. I don't know any other bargain unit in my experience working with labor do that to the public. You know, that's a shame. You know, that is a shame.
Ready to vote.
Thank you. I'm
I'm
sorry,
not finished.
Ms. Singh Allen has an opportunity to speak.
Ms. Singh Allen.
For the record, I want to state that,
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Press, will you mute? In case-
that Mr. Fortuna and Mr. Perez are opposing it for two very different reasons. I think that that's worth noting. Mr. Fortuna would like to go back now, for the most part. Mr. Perez does not want to go back. So it is important to note that these are very distinct reasons, that Mr. Perez seems to confuse his opposition and mixing it with Mr. Fortuna's. I don't think that that's, I'm sure people that are listening in understand that or are following that, but I just want to make it very crystal clear that the opposition is for two very, very different reasons. My opinion, I'm speaking, Mr. Perez, you've had your
I'd like to have a say so after she speaks.
Very short, yes.
Thank you very much. Is this MOU perfect? Is what we are doing perfect? No, we are in a pandemic. This is unprecedented. So first and foremost, I want to thank our teachers and all of our staff and our bargaining units for their flexibility and their understanding and their patience. This is not easy. It hasn't been easy for anybody, including our children. We have heard from so many families. I'm sympathetic to what Mr. Fortuna is saying of getting back to the classroom, but we're not quite there yet for 100% return because our numbers are going up. We have a plan that helps our young students recover some of that lost learning, because it's going to be very hard. It's been hard for all of us. So I support it for a lot of the reasons I stated in our previous presentation, but bottom line, that lost learning, the mental health concerns, those weigh heavy on my heart. And I know that this system is not perfect. And I just really want to recognize our staff and our teachers for the flexibility, because I know that you are dedicated to your profession and you would like to return as safely as possible at the soonest possible full-time. We're not quite there yet. We are making our decision based on science, on the health directives. And once we get into a safer tier system, we're going to be implementing that phased-in approach. Again, targeting our young students who we've all heard from. Those kids are suffering. I'm happy for the children and the families whose students are thriving under distance learning, but that's not the case for probably about half of them, at least based on the feedback that I've gotten, the emails, the phone calls, the texts. There's a lot of children suffering. And so this is a step. It's a step in the right direction. This is what negotiation looks like. It's not perfect. It's not a one size fits all for everyone. This is the best solution with the best information that we have of finding that win-win, right? It's finding the win-win solution and not being so positional that it's my way or else. This agreement is unique. Look at what we're seeing in our surrounding communities where we don't have this agreement in place yet. So this, I think, is a victory for our children, for our educators, of making the best decision with the information that we have and trying to meet the needs of our students and families. There's going to be gaps in there, of course. It's not a solution for everyone, but it's the best that we have at this time. So I am in support, and I want to thank everyone for the flexibility that this provides. And remember, if distance learning is working for you, you can stay there. You can stay there. But those special education students and so many of our other students who need just even that contact, even just showing up on campus, goes a long way for one's mental health. I mean, just think about us. When we see someone in our family, just that connection that really only takes place in person. I'm speaking, Mr. Perez. Thank you. goes a long way. So I recognize how far we've come and how far we still have to go, but I applaud the efforts of the entire team. This includes our parents, our educators, our bargaining leaders, our district staff, and yes, even our board, finding the best solution for this moment in time. With that, I yield to whoever is next. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, you wanted to say something quickly, and then Mr. Fortuna had one quick comment, and then I will say my comments, and we will do a roll call vote and adjourn.
Well, I disagree with you wanting me to do it quickly when you give privileges to other board members could talk all day. I'm getting tired of that. I'm getting tired of your selective privilege to people to speak. This is a life and death situation. You know, if Mr. Forcina could go home and at 2 o'clock meeting, we still got a quorum. What's the issue with that? We have a quorum. Let him go. We still could speak here all day. It's a life and death situation. And you know what? I'm going to
Mr. Perez, please focus on the MOU.
Well, this is a procedure. Okay, what I said, I agree with Mr. Forcina's reasons. I agree for Mr. Forcina's reasons.
Thank you.
And I had put in other issues that I was concerned about. Okay. And, you know, Miss Singh Allen is very articulate because of her legal background. She's a lawyer. Now I see why she's sitting on the board. Supporting the status quo. But you know what? The bottom line is the health and safety of our students. And there's another reason. If we were so concerned about opening up our classrooms, our schools, why isn't the district office open last month when they try to open up the schools? Why is it today it's closed and no citizens, no people, our students can't go in there, our parents can't go in there? Why do we have a double standard?
Madam Chair, call the question.
No, Mr. Forcina's next.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's been called a question. We will take a vote immediately. That's the rules of parliament.
I really would like to make a quick comment.
Well, I would like to make a statement.
And you'd like to make a statement. I love it that everybody is speaking to what I said, but I said two things, and the second one hasn't been addressed, and that is that yes, I as many teachers and parents and students want to return to school. But what I also said is that our teachers have been under unbelievable amount of pressure in the distance learning model, and they are just becoming comfortable with that. And what this model proposes to do is to increase that pressure by now requiring them to be in the site, providing the same instruction to the students who are at home while they're providing that instruction to the kids that are sitting in their seats with little gain. I mean, I really believe that. So I just want to say that there were two components to what I was saying. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So my colleagues have had many insightful things, and I just wanted to add a few. First of all, I am so sorry we cannot get school started again as quickly as we had hoped. I think our pre-K third graders, or littles, as I refer to them, need to be in the classroom as soon as possible, followed by all our students. This agreement we reached with our union and that is guiding our decision-making is based on science, public health professionals, student and staff safety. It's unique in the Sacramento County Public Schools, and it provides a chance for our students to be back before next calendar year. Though I'll admit, when we didn't turn orange yesterday and it could not start, I actually cried. I see the challenges students and parents face every day. I have high school age children and friends, and elementary friends who would let me sit with their children during school. We shifted online in March because we didn't know the public health challenges or risks of COVID-19, and neither did the county health department. We've all learned a lot, and I feel we now know how to bring the students and staff back safely. I'm encouraged with the findings that schools are not major sources of spread, as stated by the governor, health official, and that they have successfully continued to educate preschool and home care children. And I think as a district, we have the capacity to test, trace, and support both staff and students for a safe return. So I know among our board, there is a variety of opinions. And as the president, I have worked hard to come to a compromise we could all support. The unions were trying to align thousands of people. I was trying with 7. It's not an easy situation. And we have tied our return to the data and science that guides both our public health actions across the county and for us. I was comfortable with a compromise decision based on science, which politically makes no one happy, but moves us forward in a phased partial return to the classroom. And I'm still hopeful this will happen. And I implore our community to keep vigilant and allow our children to return to their classroom. Thank you. I am required to have another roll call vote as we kind of mixed in votes and didn't. I would like it to be this, and then we will. So if you could answer aye or nay only, please, I would appreciate it.
I didn't hear a second.
We had that before we started, Mr. Press. Thank you.
Who did the first? Who?
I don't keep records.
Mr. Madison did the first,
Madison
and
and
Mr.
St.
Allen
Allen.
did the second.
Mr. Fortino.
Thank you.
Hi, excuse me. You guys got me so confused.
I'm sorry.
No.
Mr. Fortino.
No.
Ms. Espinoza.
Aye.
Dr. Martinez-Soler.
Aye.
Mr. Madison.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
As the survey stated, 45% of our teachers
President
do not
Ashford,
want to
aye or
come
nay?
back to school.
Yes or no,
And
sir?
that's a that's a short survey. That's not
Mr.
all the
Perez.
teachers.
Please answer yes or no.
Oh, I'm giving the explanation. Can I do that?
No, we've done this and you've had 2 turns, sir.
Okay.
Please answer yes or no. Would you like to vote on the
No.
MOU, yes or no?
No, no.
No. Ms. Singh
No.
Allen.
Aye.
Thank you, and I am an aye. This concludes our virtual special board meeting. Thank you for joining us. It is 1:37. Take care.